What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2TT Chapter 31 The Five Elders Highest Order. Encircle and suppress Levi, asking for flower evaluation votes. Look at the photo. Who did this? The beanie five elders inhaled slightly, and their eyes towards the CP agency had changed. There are no clues yet. The CP agency lowered its head. There was a sudden silence in the field. The five elders looked at this picture. Silent for a long time. This kind of large hole that runs straight through the mountain clearly cannot be a natural phenomenon. This is caused by man, but who can make a hole in red line? The hardness of red line is best understood by five elders. Why would they base world government on the red line? There's a reason, because red line is strong enough. Even if someone attacks, it will be difficult to shake the foundation. It is a typical terrain that is easy to defend but difficult to attack. But now, red line is rocked, and they directly made a hole in it. This shows a very scary thing. If this person wants to attack Marijoy, he can also penetrate Marijoy. This has threatened the foundation. Go and investigate immediately. We must find out who did this. The blonde five elders narrowed his eyes and felt sharp. Yes. The CP agency nodded hurriedly and immediately retreated. Watching the CP agency exit the room, the long-bearded five elders tapped their hands lightly on their knees. The sense of crisis made his heart solemn. He is thinking. Who did it? Whitebeard. No. The whereabouts of the four emperors are being monitored, and Whitebeard was not in the sea near the big hole at all when the earthquake occurred. Suddenly, the long-bearded five elders' eyes flashed. He looked at another piece of information placed on the table. That is, information about Levi. Will it have anything to do with him? The long-bearded five elders whispered softly, advertisement. The other five elders understood who he was referring to at this moment, and their eyes flickered. Levi has been active in the first half of the Grand Line, so the time and place are right. As for whether it has the ability to penetrate the red line. According to the inference of the five elders, Levi may be holding some residual weapons from the D clan. There are many inferences about Levi in the world. After Levi was confirmed to have the ability to resurrect people, the most popular claim was that Levi was Uranus. But the five elders don't think so, because they know what Uranus is. At the same time, the five elders also know some secrets. The Ds are very special, and the devil fruit tree is inextricably linked to them. And Levi, who is presumed to be holding the remaining weapons of the D clan. It does have the ability to penetrate the red line. If this guy is Levi, why is he punching through the red line? The blonde five elders narrowed his eyes, his expression changing. What's the reason? The five elders hold long staffs and tap them gently on the ground. Before this, Levi killed celestial dragons in the street, and regardless of whether there was a conflict between them, it has shown that he does not take the powerful system we have established at all. The leader of the world government squinted his eyes and looked out the window at the blue sky. He is a powerful provocateur, a loner, and an exception. He does not intend to be restrained by anything. Even if what restrains him is the world itself, the natural mountain chasms. For Levi, if he wants to pass, the red line can't stop him. If you block it, break it. The beanie five elders spoke softly, his tone becoming more solemn. Levi's existence, it's definitely not a good thing for them. What an arrogant boy. The blonde five elders took a sip of tea, and a chill flashed through his eyes. Regardless of whether he broke the red line or not, Levi should act as soon as possible. He can no longer do anything in the world. Let's walk on. The top priority is to arrest him. Levi's blood has great meaning to us. The blonde five elders put down the teacup. It's time for Marine to give some results. Good. Several other five elders nodded. Let 2 admirals, plus 5 vice admirals, cranes, and 10 warships work together, Taoist five elders said. The words fell. He suddenly drew his sword, and the samurai sword pointed directly at the blue sky outside the window. Now, a seabird started up, the setting sun pours down. Advertisement. The sword shines brightly. This time, we must take down Levi. As for the 2 admiral candidates, let Sakazuki and Kuzan go. The other side, Levi has cycled through the cave he made with his own hands. Come to New World, now. Levi pedaled his bicycle leisurely and rode all the way on the sea. Along the way, the sea forms a path of frost. He was very relaxed, and his speed was variable along the way, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but in short, he just followed his heart. Either fast or slow, heading towards an island not far away as he pleased. I have to say that riding a bicycle on the sea is really a very comfortable experience. On the endless blue sea, I'm the only one riding a bicycle. This feeling, it's like having the whole ocean to yourself. Satisfying and relaxing. Levi had a faint smile on his face. Stepping forward slowly and leisurely, in the distance, there is a small island. Levi plans to go to the island for dinner, at the same time. On the sea thousands of meters away from Levi, a pirate ship is moving slowly. The skull on the pirate flag wears a pair of sunglasses and looks arrogant. If there are people here who often read newspapers, you will definitely be shocked. This is the Sunglasses Pirates who have become famous in the New World recently. Its captain, Black Mirror, Baker, is so famous that he is on the verge of being called a supernova. Captain Baker, there seems to be someone riding a bicycle on the sea ahead? Watchman Cat suddenly shouted, and his whole body jumped up in surprise. It's so weird, what kind of special bicycle is this? It can actually be used as a boat. Baker heard this. Turn your head and look towards the sea. Chapter 32. If he is Kuzan, then who is this? Asking for flower evaluation votes. Cycling on the sea? Baker was stunned and quickly raised his binoculars. Far away on the sea, there is really a tall and thin figure riding a bicycle. Wherever he passed, the sea surface was frozen and turned into a path of frost. It's true. Wait. Baker's heart sank. He looked at the marine code behind Levi. I thought of a rumor. It seems that Aokiji Kuzan, one of the 3 marine admirals, has the habit of riding a bicycle on the sea? Baker's eyelids twitched. This person, could it be Kuzan? Captain Baker, someone seems to have seen Kuzan Admiral in the waters near here recently. When pirate thought of something, his lips trembled and his face turned pale. Even though the sunglasses pirates have already created a certain reputation in the New World. But when facing Marine Admiral Kuzan, it can't be an opponent. Run. Change course, don't run into Kuzan. Baker's face also turned pale. Yes, 2 clues have been determined. The man on the sea is Kuzan. Yes. The ship was instantly in chaos. The one who drives the ship sails, the one who raises the sails. Even in desperation, some pirates tripped and fell to the ground in a panic. But, there was a man who was out of place on the boat. Everyone was running, but he was still standing still. He was the lookout Keda who first discovered Levi. Now, he turned his head blankly, pointed to another sea surface with his hand, and said tremblingly. If he is Kuzan, then who is this man? Baker, who was turning the helm, hesitated. He was pointing in the direction Carter pointed, sea. There is also a man riding a bicycle on the sea. Moreover, wherever this person passes, the sea surface is also frozen into an ice road. This feeling, this scene, and the person before. Advertisement exactly the same. Beck was confused, and the entire sunglasses pirates were confused. What's the situation? To Kuzan? Are you kidding me? Far away, riding his bicycle, Kuzan lazily yawned. Find a place to take a nap, halfway through the words. Kuzan looked into the distance and was stunned. Front. There was also a guy riding a bike on the ocean. Kuzan almost subconsciously rode towards him. This is so weird. Is there another person in the world who can ride a bicycle on the sea like me? Kuzan just started to catch up. The bicycle in front suddenly turned. Is it Levi? Kuzan's eyes opened slightly, and he was no longer sleepy. He saw the marine coat behind him and the vague profile of his face. Much like Levi. Just think of this. Kuzan stepped hard on the bicycle. At this moment, the bicycle's tire speed reached an extremely exaggerated level. It actually rubbed against the ice and created a white mist that looked like car exhaust. Whoosh. Just a moment. Kuzan pedaled his bicycle and sprinted hundreds of meters. The other side. Levi pedaled the bicycle leisurely, looking around at the scenery from time to time. There is quite a leisurely feeling like going out for a spring outing. Suddenly, Levi felt something in his heart and looked into the distance. On the sea, there is a man who is as leisurely as himself riding a bicycle on the sea. Who else could this be but Kuzan? Hey, are you so unlucky? Levi smacked his lips and immediately controlled the front of the car to turn in a direction to prevent himself from colliding with the other party. Will Kuzan catch me? It's noon now. He should be sleeping. He won't want to catch me. Levi said to himself and looked back. Advertisement. See, Kuzan, who looked lazy just now, suddenly pedaled his bicycle and came flying forward. The rear tires of the car pulled out a large piece of white mist. It's like installing some kind of black technology power injection device on the bicycle. Levi was speechless. Why are you running after me without sleeping? What are you doing? Levi pedaled his feet and pedaled the bicycle too. Whoosh. White mist towers into the sky. Levi pulled the exhaust and started flying. A strange scene appeared. Levi and Kuzan, 2 of the top warriors in the fighting world, both tacitly agreed not to use their abilities and pedaled their bicycles together dryly. This looks a little funny and has a strange childishness to it. The 2 people who are obviously the strongest in the world didn't fight immediately when they met. Instead, they started competing on bicycles. The sunglasses pirate group watched this scene in the distance. The entire pirate group looked at each other, their eyes widened. If this were a comic book scene, a crow would be flying overhead. The corners of Baker's mouth twitched slightly, not knowing what expression to use to express his mood at this moment. What are you doing? Sports competition? When did the dangerous sea become such a joke? It's like Levi and Kuzan's playground. Should we follow up and take a look? Watchman Cat said cautiously after hesitating. He was really curious, were these 2 really just racing cars? And, Baker said fiercely, I just saw it clearly. The person who appeared before was Levi. When Kuzan Admiral meets him, the 2 of them will definitely fight. We might be able to reap the benefits. The greed in Baker's eyes is getting stronger. Captain, follow. As soon as these words came out, many crew members nodded, and they also thought of this. In their opinion, Levi and Kuan are similar in strength, and there is a high possibility that they will both lose in a fight. However, we have to be careful and keep our distance so as not to be discovered. Baker remained calm and was not completely carried away by greed. And at the same time, the distance between Kuan and Levi was instantly shortened. Chapter 33 Battle with Kuan. The ice dragon reaches the sky, asking for flower evaluation votes. Boom, Kuan is no longer just a bicycle. The power of frozen fruit explodes. A huge ice block rose from the sea, like a platform, holding Kuan and his bicycle, and rushed thousands of meters in an instant. With this speed increase, Kuan caught up with Levi. Levi also stopped at this time. He looked at Kuan, who couldn't outrun him on the bicycle and had to use his fruit ability to catch up, and said with regret. Player Kuan, you committed a foul. Look at his look. It's like Kuan is cheating. Kuan, do you think this is a sports meeting? Kuan scratched his hair speechlessly. Levi, you really make me curious. He looked at the frosty path beneath Levi's bicycle tires. That's for sure, Levi is also using the ability of ice now. He has the same abilities as himself. This is why Kuan decided to follow. A person with the same abilities as myself, how could Kuan not be curious? Levi looked at Kuan, raised the corners of his mouth, smiled quietly, and said nothing. Suddenly, Levi raised his fingertips, an ice spike condensed in the air as fast as a bullet, and shot straight into Kuan's chest. Call out, the ice thorn sank into Kuan's chest. The strange thing is that there is no trace of blood flowing out at all. Kuan's body surface, there's frost spreading, call. Kuan's eyes flickered, the mouth was slightly opened and cold white air was exhaled. Then the bone-chilling breath bloomed. This is elementalization. He stared at Levi with a strange expression. Levi did not continue his attack, instead, he got out of the car. On his face, with a smile like a kid who has succeeded in playing a prank. You foul, I foul, everyone is even. Levi smiled and walked towards Kuan. He stepped down step by step, the seawater freezes. Ice is filling the air, this is a big foul on your part. Kuan shook his head and let out a cold breath. His hands hung down naturally, and ice spread over his body, climbing up half of his face. Advertisement Levi's attack seems simple, but if a pirate with a bounty of over 100 million faced this ice spike, he would probably be shot in the head on the spot. Perusalino wasted time with me, so I won't waste time with you. Levi looked up and glanced at the sky above him. The sun is slowly sinking into the horizon. Announced that the night is coming, just what I wanted. A bright light flashed in Kuan's eyes, he opened his mouth, his breath was cold, and his voice was low. Levi chuckled. Sit upright above the frosty sky. The spell of liberation, say it silently in your heart. Moment. The cold air from the sky retreated and condensed into armor on Levi. Behind, the giant dragon's ice wings flap up and down, exuding an endless chill. Swastika solution open. You look like the legendary dragon now. Kuan chuckled lightly, but there was always a hint of solemnity in his eyes. I read the report of your fight with Garp. There was a ghost dog in the sky that flashed away. First it was the monster dog, and then it was the dragon. Levi, who are you? The ice spread under Kuan's feet, and wisps of white air came out of his mouth. Frozen fruit, the strongest ice power fruit among all devil fruits. This is an extremely low temperature. Any living thing will tremble from the bottom of its heart when facing such a low temperature, and even its blood will freeze. Hear the words. Levi smiled, he said from a true scripture. I'm just a passing cyclist. Kuan, you've had enough. He didn't reply again, because the moment the words fell. Levi has moved. He holds a branch in his hand, gathering vast amounts of frost and cold air. Cut it out with one sword. A flash of white light reflected in Kuan's eyes. That's an ice dragon with teeth and claws. He was chopped out by Levi with a sword. Roar, under the sword of Levi, the ice dragon appears again. However, Kuan was surprised that the ice dragon condensed by Levi did not rush towards him. Far away, the sunglasses pirates quietly reached a distance of 10,000 meters. They held special telescopes and observed Levi and Kuan in the distance. The fight started, Watcher Cat shouted excitedly. Through the telescope he clearly saw, advertisement. At dusk, under the darkening night sky, Levi and Kuan stand opposite each other, standing tall on the sea. Endless cold air gathered around them, and the air where the two stood seemed to be frozen, and hundreds of crystal ice shards appeared out of thin air. Under the weak sunset light, dots of ice chips reflect the brilliant shimmer. It's like a gorgeous star hanging from the front. Their lips moved slightly, like saying something. The next second, Levi draws his sword. He tore apart this dreamy and beautiful scene with his overbearing and unparalleled slashes. This moment, a roar suddenly erupted in the sea, and the torrential seawater rolled up from the center of the sea. The vast sea surface was divided into two halves by this sword. A huge creature emerged from it. This is actually an ice dragon with cold air emanating from its entire body. The ice dragon that Levi condensed with ice, roar. This moment, the ice dragon seemed to come to life. The sword roared like a dragon's roar, under the last ray of sunshine. This ice dragon, whose entire body was made of frost, roared up to the sky and crashed into the sky with an unstoppable force. Moment, white mist spreads in the air, the sea is covered with white frost. It was also at the same time, the sun sets over the sea. The sunlight completely dissipated and the world returned to the embrace of darkness. Everyone in the Sunglasses Pirates were stunned. This scene. It's like an ice dragon rushing into the sky and extinguishing the sun. Boom, the ice dragon went straight into the cloud cliff and exploded at the highest point. This moment, everyone vaguely felt that, sky, it seems darker. A depressing and unsettling atmosphere spreads throughout this world. Captain. Why don't we escape? Carter crossed his arms, his lips began to tremble with cold. Just run away like this, Baker glared at him fiercely, and he wanted to rebuke angrily. However, the rest of his words were stuck in his throat. Because, sky, cracked, an obvious large hole opened in the dark clouds. Inside the cave, it's bright, that is, countless crystal snowflakes are piled in it. Bankai Burial of Ice and Flowers, Chapter 34. Frozen Kuzan, frozen fruit will also be frostbitten, asking for flower evaluation votes. Crash. Snowflakes fall from the top of the endless sky. Draw beautiful curves in the air, like smart and elegant elves. Baker looked up, his expression extremely strange. Summer, how could it snow? This can only mean that. It's Levi's ability to control changes in the weather. Snowing. A pirate stared straight at the crystal clear snowflakes falling from the sky, and he wanted to reach out to catch them. Don't! Beck yelled. There was an inexplicable look of fear on his face, and his eyes were staring at the sky. See! A snowflake quietly fell on a seabird, crack. An ice flower bloomed from the seabird's body and instantly turned into an ice sculpture. Ah! The pirate who reached out to touch the snowflakes retracted his palm like an electric shock. He looked at his palm with a horrified expression. On it, lying quietly is a beautiful snowflake, click. The snowflake in the pirate's palm bloomed and turned into a cold ice flower. No! The pirate screamed in horror, retreated and fell to the ground. The next moment, the screams stopped suddenly, the ice spreads. He has become an ice sculpture, quick, run away. Baker yelled and backed away, his liver and gallbladder bursting. Now, more and more snowflakes were falling from the sky, and they were about to fall on their heads. Just touch, he will surely die in the freezing cold. Run away, hurry up and take the helm and change the direction. The pirate ship turned its bow amidst everyone's tragic screams. They don't have any thoughts about picking up the leaks now, they just want to escape from here as quickly as possible. However, the bow of the ship only turned a slight arc and could no longer move at all. Another wave of frost and cold air swept over from a distance. See, freeze instantly. This is Kuzan. Two forces of ice collided brazenly, using the sky and the sea as their battlefields. Boom, boom, boom. The sea rolled and the sky screamed. Every time the two cold air collide, huge ice cubes are born. On the sea and in the sky, there are large and clear ice cubes everywhere. Advertisement: no, this can no longer be described with ice cubes. These are the majestic icebergs standing in the sky and sea. Boom boom boom. Collisions one after another. Icebergs appeared and burst one after another, and starry ice shards flew into the night sky, dotted with twinkling stars. This is destruction and birth, it is also chilling and gorgeous. However, the Sunglasses Pirates could no longer see this dreamlike scene. It has become a giant ice sculpture. Every pirate in the ice is lifelike, and the fear on their faces is perfectly displayed. It's like an exquisite piece of art, inside the ice cube. They are alive, already cut off, snowflakes are still falling. Frosty ice flowers bloom on the sea, the dark deep sea area. Countless deep sea creatures stiffened and turned into ice sculptures. The ice sky and 100 flowers burial is still going on. Hundreds of flowers descend from the sky, burying all living things with ice. I don't know how much time has passed, it all stopped. Only, between sea and sky, an icicle appeared connecting heaven and earth. This icicle is composed of countless blooming ice flowers, one after another, layer by layer, until it towers into the cloud cliff. In the ice sky 100 flowers burial, most of the snowflakes fell on this location. And at the bottom of the icicle, a figure is frozen. His body was upright, keep your right hand raised. The marine code behind him freezes the frame. This is actually Kuzan. No one can think of it. This strong man at the top of Marine, the admiral who has frozen countless pirates, is synonymous with frost. It was actually frozen today, in front of the icicle. Levi's dark eyes are calm, the ice on his body melted little by little, and the giant frost wings on his back were withering. The cold that froze everything in the world is also gradually fading. Let's end it here. Levi took one last look at Kuzan and turned away. Behind him, there is a small lump of ice, inside was Buggy's borrowed bicycle. Call. Levi raised his hand and the ice melted, revealing the bicycle. Advertisement. He strode forward, straddled the car, and stepped on the pedals tentatively. The tires gurgled. Everything is still intact, it seems there is no need to change the car. Levi had a smile on his face and was obviously in a good mood. Hum hum, he hummed a light tune, leaving slowly on the bicycle. Under the night, the unknown tone carries a kind of inner comfort, slowly echoing in this vast sea. Along the way the bike passes, the path is filled with frost. Just as it came, Kuan inside the icicle watched Levi go away, motionless, as if completely frozen. And just when Levi's figure completely disappeared, Kacha! The icicles shook suddenly and cracked open. Boom! Next moment, the icicles reaching the sky shattered and exploded into countless ice fragments. Kuan came out of it. He exhaled a cold breath. It's really cold. Kuan lowered his head and looked at the back of his right hand. The skin was purple-brown, as if it was necrotic. It was frostbite. A person with frozen fruit ability was actually frostbitten. This is simply the most ridiculous joke in the world, but it really happened. I was almost killed. Kuan stared at the direction where Levi disappeared, and said with a cold breath. Perhaps Perusalino is the best candidate to fight him. And right now. Puff! Puff! The phone bug in Kusan's pocket vibrated. Kuan Admiral, the 5 elders have sent the highest order, ordering you to set out immediately to join forces with Sakazuki Admiral, Crane Vice Admiral, and the 5 Vice Admirals to encircle Levi. The serious voice of the CP agency came from the phone. Kuan fell into a long silence. Kuan Admiral? The CP agency on the other end of the conversation sounded tentative and confused. Why doesn't Kuan Admiral speak? Kuan raised his head, looked into the distance, and took a deep breath. I heard. After saying these words, Kuan hung up the phone directly. He stared into the distance and scratched his head with one hand, seeming a little irritated. I see. Chapter 35. 2 admirals arrive, encircling and attacking, asking for flower evaluation votes. 5 days after the supreme order of the 5 elders was issued. This is the seat of world government, the highest point of power. Holy Land Marijoy, in a quiet and luxurious room. The 5 elders gathered together again, 5 adults. CP0, who was wearing a white suit, knelt on one knee and lowered his head. Have you found Levi? The blonde 5 elders raised his eyes. Levi's location has been locked. Sakazuki Admiral has set off from the headquarters. In order to ensure that Levi is not lost, Marine will surround Levi from both sides and attack Levi so that he cannot escape. CP0's tone was smooth, like a computer precision machine's. Hear the words. The 5 elders all had their eyes twinkling. They looked at the teacups in their palms, the tea ripples in circles. There is quite a feeling that the storm is about to come. At the same time, Naval Headquarters, Sengoku office. Sengoku picked up the phone and said in a serious and low tone. Levi's location has been basically determined. Over the phone, Crane's voice came, At this moment, the door was pushed open from the outside. Garp walks in. There was no smile on his face like before, and his expression was very serious. Courting Levi was a mistake. He strode over and said only this sentence. At the same time, New World, the Quaker pirates are tracking the Fang pirates. 2 years ago, the Quaker pirates and the Fang pirates fought in the waters near the Land of Flowers. The Quaker pirates suffered more than 80% casualties. This battle almost wiped out the Quirk pirates, and even Captain Quirk lost an arm and an eye. But now, 2 years have passed, and the Quirk pirates have regained their strength and are even stronger than they were 2 years ago. Boss Quick, the Fang pirates are anchored 5 nautical miles ahead. They may be going to the island to replenish supplies. Our opportunity has come. The first officer, Oli, raised his telescope and shouted. Very good, kids, this time we are going to break this, Fang, and let them taste the taste of hell. The one-armed, one-eyed Quick raised his knife and roared, his eyes filled with crazy hatred. Kill, kill, shout out to kill Genshin, advertisement. The Quaker pirates' eyes are blood red, and the flames of hatred are burning. They want to sell the grudges from 2 years ago today and let the Fang pirates sink into the sea completely. However, at the moment when they were about to set sail for a surprise attack, a crew member from behind shouted, Oops, Boss Quick, there's a warship behind us, it's Marine coming. Marine? Quick's eyelids twitched and he immediately turned back. At this glance, the whole person felt like being struck by lightning. See, in the sea area behind, 5 warships were speeding in a sharp knife formation. On the warship at the front, there are several figures standing proudly. They faced the strong wind. Marine's coat is flying behind him. No action is required at all, just by relying on his name, he can suppress all pirates. They are, Kuan, Crane, behind them, Huo Shaoshan and Doberman Vice Admiral stood side by side. And what makes the entire Quaker pirates stand on end is, the warship was heading straight towards them. Coming towards us? Captain Oli almost lost his breath. This kind of formation is used to deal with them? Isn't it overkill? What on earth did we do? Quick's one eye widened and his heart twitched. He couldn't help but start thinking about whether he had committed something big recently. Attracting Marine to encircle and suppress him on such a large scale. Quick swore that this was definitely the most unlucky day he had ever had in decades at sea. However, what Quick didn't expect was that changes occur again. Ah, a pirate yelled, pointing in another direction without saying a word. When he rolled his eyes, he fainted. There was an obvious look of horror on his face. He was so frightened that he fainted, in the direction he was looking. 5 more warships appeared, on the leading warship. A tall figure can be vaguely seen standing on the bow of the ship. Is there someone here again? Vice Admiral? Quick raised his binoculars. The next second, he looked horrified. Advertisement. The telescope in my hand almost dropped to the ground. That burly and tall figure, where is the Vice Admiral? It's obviously Admiral Sakazuki. This. Boss Quaker, did we accidentally kill the celestial dragons? Oli turned his head blankly and trembled. 2 admirals, Crane, plus a few vice admirals. What a sin this was. Could it be that he accidentally killed the celestial dragons while sailing? Could it be that the collision between our 2 pirate groups with a bounty of over 500 million has aroused Marine's great attention, so they want to kill us? A pirate asked tremblingly. No matter what, Marine thinks too highly of them. However, as soon as these words were spoken, the pirate was stunned. The warship sailed past them without even paying attention. Kuzan and Crane on the warship didn't even look at them. Marine's goal is to, the Fang pirate ship in the distance. All the pirates were confused. Why did Marine go after their mortal enemy? Gulu, what did those idiots from the Fang pirates do? Could they be stupid enough to kidnap the celestial dragons? Quirk stared blankly at the warship in the distance. He didn't even react to gloating. Perhaps he killed the illegitimate son of a certain admiral? Or his teeth were chattering and he couldn't speak fluently. No matter what, the Fang pirates are all dead, right? Some pirates also breathed a sigh of relief. The other side, on the warship that just passed by. Doberman frowned and glanced at the Quaker pirates behind him. Ms. Crane, do we really not care about those pirates? He shook his head. It's not necessary. Although the 500 million pirates should be eradicated, their importance level is insignificant in front of Levi. The most important thing at the moment is to deal with Levi. He looked at the Fang pirates' pirate ship that was gradually approaching. His eyes were very deep. If you want to deal with Levi, you can't lose any physical strength. Around. Kuzan came up with Haki in his arms. He looked at the increasingly approaching pirate ship, his eyes flickering. The brown frostbite on the back of my hand has healed. It's about to begin. Kuzan breathed out a cold breath. The temperature dropped sharply. Chapter 36. Towering Sakura trees, scatter Senbon Sakura, asking for flower evaluation votes. The Crane looks into the distance. On the sea, the Fang pirate ship swayed with the waves, facing Marine's encirclement and suppression. Not a trace of panic. Everyone is ready, he shouted lightly. Distance. It's very close. Click. The warship's fire doors were fully opened, and the dark gun barrels poked out, aiming at the pirate ship in the distance. The combat distance has arrived. Boom, suddenly. There was an earth-shattering roar, the entire sea shook, and the waves soared into the sky. This is not a warship firing, but Sakazuki punched out of the air. Dark Hound. The red magma boils and condenses into the head of a roaring vicious dog. Wherever it passes, the seawater evaporates and white mist rises. On the Fang pirate ship. Levi grabbed this boat this morning. Unfortunately, the Fang pirates had already consumed all the supplies before they left, so he had to find a nearby small island to replenish supplies. Levi leaned against the mast, eating the freshly baked bread he had just bought. His movements were neither hasty nor slow, with a sense of unfettered leisure. Rumble. Suddenly, the sound of rolling waves crashing from the sea was heard in the distance. Levi stopped eating and turned to look. A total of 10 warships formed a double-team formation and rushed towards him. And on the bow of the warship, several eye-catching and familiar figures stood in the wind. Kuzan, Sakazuki, Crane, Huashaoshan, Doberman, Dalmatian, Ghost Spider, Bastille. 2 admirals, 6 vice admirals. This kind of lineup is not luxurious, even if it is against the 4 emperors. It's really annoying. Levi stood up, wiped his mouth with paper and muttered softly. Check in. Levi thought silently in his mind. Open black lens bracket ding. Host checks in successfully, and each physical quality plus 0.5. The mechanical sound of the system rang in my ears. The bronze wall stands in front of him, and the 753rd small grid is opened. The white slender knife flew over, and the ethereal sakura flowers wrapped around the blade and crashed into Levi's body. Today's template. Byakuya Kuchiki, Bankai version. Almost at the same time as the system prompt tone fell. Rumble, a loud noise like a volcanic eruption came from the distant sea. Levi stared. A ferocious magma dog tore through the sky, crossed the sea, and came towards him with an unstoppable force. Advertisement. It's Sakazuki's Dark Hound. In that case, let's have a big battle. Levi's voice was calm. Dark Hound is near, the dark red light of the magma reflected on his face. Underfoot, ships emitted black smoke. Dark Hound has not yet arrived, but the pirate ship has already been set on fire. Levi's face. There is only peace on the face. Chang. The branch was held, the ears were ringing, and the unstoppable determination made the air tremble. Let's scatter. Buzz. At the tip of the branch, a gorgeous sakura flower blooms. So delicate and beautiful. The pink color is reflected in Levi's dark pupils. His expression remained unchanged. Raise your sword. Cut horizontally. Sprinkle a handful of sword light like a silver moon. Laugh, dark hound rushes in and splits into two. The high-temperature magma splashed and fell into the sea, instantly evaporating into a vast white mist. Action. Both warships moved, and thousands of Marines moved at the same time. Click. Kuan raised his hand. The air is cold. The Ice Age is coming. The 10,000-meter-wide sea froze instantly and became a natural land battlefield. Two groups of Marines, one on the left and one on the right, were heading towards Levi. Levi stood in the center of the circle. His dark eyes are deep. The Marine coat rustled behind him. Even though there are thousands of people, I can stand alone. Scattered. Senbon Sakura. The Bankai mantra was completely chanted at this moment. Far away, Sakazuki stood still on the bow. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Levi, who slashed him open with a sword. This sword, Levi can do it with ease, on another warship. Kuan put away his palms and looked at Levi, who was alone, silent. Haven't seen you for a few days, he feels. Levi seems to be stronger. It's not that easy to capture Levi. Beside him, Crane stood on the deck with his hands behind his back, looking very old. Advertisement, he was very old, and the wrinkles on his face were as deep as a knife. However, no one dares to underestimate such an old man who doesn't seem to have much fighting power. Marine has 3 admirals, but only 2 the resourceful general. One was Marshal Sengoku, the second one is a Crane. She doesn't need much fighting power, just her tactics can scare countless pirates. At this moment, facing Levi, he showed decisiveness that surpassed everyone. She raised her hand. Fall gently. This is the order to fire. Boom, boom, boom. 10 warships fired at the same time. Hundreds of pitch-black cannonballs were fired from the narrow barrel, trailing long tails of flames in the air and falling towards Levi like a swarm of meteors. A baptism of artillery fire on this scale can wipe out a small town in an instant. Smoke filled the air, full of gunpowder, and just before the cannonball was about to fall. Where Levi stood, there are pink sakura flowers rising into the sky. Rustle, tens of millions of sakura flowers are in full bloom, gathering into an endless vast sea of sakura flowers, rising from the ground and pouring into the sky. Sakura flower? Doberman narrowed his eyes, and then he thought of something. Careful! Doberman immediately shouted at the charging troops. Levi's abilities are ever-changing, and this sakura flower is probably one of his abilities. Rustle. The torrent of sakura flowers runs through the sky and the sea. Endless and endless. It's like an ancient tree made of sakura flowers bloomed here out of thin air. Dong. The endless sakura flowers drowned the cannonballs, and these black weapons only made bursts of short and dull blasting sounds. In a wave of pink, not even a trace of fire could shine through. This moment, countless Marines were at a loss what to do. Levi disappeared. The only thing left on the sea is the giant sakura tree in full bloom. The giant sakura tree with a diameter of several hundred meters towers into the clouds. Its canopy spreads out to 10,000 meters, covering the entire sky within 10,000 meters with a layer of pink sakura flowers. Each petal is emitting a faint shimmer, soft and beautiful. The next second, all this beauty turns into endless murderous intent. The sakura flower suddenly shrank, fell from the sky, and drooped. Every soft petal turned into a sharp sword edge at this moment. The air was split, and the air-breaking sound roared. 10,000 meters are sakura flowers, 10,000 meters are swords. Chapter 37 Sakazuki bleeds, asking for flower evaluation votes. Laugh, in the 10,000-meter field, Sakura will kill you. The beautiful sakura flower shows its sharpness, but it is not a sakura flower at all. But thousands of sword blades, as numerous as stars. The chilling sakura flowers rained down and rolled towards the warship that was firing. On the 2 leading warships, Kuan and Sakazuki's eyes narrowed. Ice and fire burst out at the same time. Dong. Roaring and shaking, the ice and magma blocked Sakura's flower rain. However, behind them, the warship without a strong guard was overwhelmed by sakura flowers in the blink of an eye. Boom boom boom. 8 warships turned into flames at the same time and exploded with a bang. The explosions were connected in a line and shook the entire sea area. Thick smoke billows, covering most of the sea, through the black smoke. It is faintly visible that the wreckage of the warship is slowly sinking into the sea. In one encounter, Marine lost 8 warships. Moreover, the quirk pirates, who are closer to the warship, are also within the range of sakura flower petals. Ah! Half the pirates on board died tragically, and blood seeped into the deck. Gulu. Quick swallowed hard, his pupils trembled crazily, and there was nothing but fear on his face. Just the aftermath of the battle left more than half of his pirate ship dead or injured. What kind of power is this? He finally understood why the Marine warship passed by them without even stopping. Because, compared to the enemies Marine will face, the Quaker pirates are nothing more than ants. It's so insignificant that it can be crushed to death easily. And at this moment, a figure, soaring into the sky from the Fang pirate ship. Stand tall in the sky, it's Levi. Marine went for Levi. Ori screamed in horror, holding the telescope in one hand and pointing to the sky with the other. He recognized it, this figure rising into the sky. It's Levi. He stands in the sky, Sakura flowers danced around him like streams of water, enveloping him. There is a gorgeous beauty to it, but also a biting coldness. Levi's eyes were dark, staring down silently. He didn't make any movement, his hands hung naturally, and he didn't even make a gesture to draw his sword. But even if it's just that, Levi still brings unparalleled pressure to people. On the ice, the thousands of Marines who had been surrounding Levi turned pale and were swaying profusely. Don't even dare to take a step forward, just this one move. Advertisement: Levi destroys 8 warships. Even during this process, no one knew how Levi took action. All they saw was the Sakura flower tree standing tall. And right at this moment, something strange happens again. On the sea, on the remaining 2 warships, several figures soared into the sky. 2 admirals, cranes, and 5 vice admirals stepped on the moonwalk at the same time and soared into the sky. We meet again. I won't hold back this time. Levi watched Kuan stepping up into the sky, his coat swaying in the cold wind and making a sound. Hear the words. The eyes of the 5 vice admirals, including Huo Shaoshan, flashed. The implication. Levi and Kuan had a collision? The meeting between Kuan and Levi has not yet begun. Kuan never mentioned it to anyone except Crane. I won't hold back, but I still want to thank you for saving my life. Kuan stepped on the moonwalk and walked through the air, looking at Levi's level. Save one life? Except for he, the expressions of several vice admirals present change. However, they were not shocked yet. A burly figure stepped out. What followed was a blazing wave of air. Sakazuki steps on moonwalk is coming. Justice cannot be tarnished, and you should pay the price for what you have done. When he opened his mouth, lava flowed from his body and black smoke billowed, like an active volcano standing in the sky. His posture was unparalleled. This moment, on the island where Levi previously replenished supplies, the residents suddenly felt a scorching heat, and the temperature suddenly rose, causing them to sweat. Someone raised his head subconsciously, standing frozen on the spot. My mouth is wide open and I can't speak anymore, I saw. Half of the sky was red, and the rolling lava was flowing, as if the sky was on fire. All of these, just because, Sakazuki, towards Levi. Punched. At the same time, everyone in Marine takes action and goes all out. Kuan breathed out cold air, and thousands of ice cones condensed in the air, rising and falling densely, condensing the air and freezing the white clouds. He tapped his finger lightly on the void, and invisible ripples spread. The ice cone condensed at this moment, and a frost sword hundreds of meters long condensed and hung across the sky, as if it was about to burst through the sky. Crane raised his right hand, swirled the air into his palm, and slapped Levi's chest. The washing fruit exploded, washing Levi with all his strength. The 5 vice admirals joined forces to attack, and the jet black armed color instantly covered fists, feet, knives, and swords. The offensive tore the air and shook the sea. This moment, the Marine generals are unstoppable. A few of them are comparable to thousands of troops. Chang. Levi raised his palm lightly, and thousands of Sakura flowers gathered together, like a bright pink galaxy, and he chopped them all out. It was obviously just a raise of hand, but he cut out thousands of swords. This is the characteristic of Senbon Sakura. One sword turns into millions of Sakura flowers, and each Sakura flower is a sword. The ice sword was the first to bear the brunt, and was shattered in an instant, with crystal powder scattered in all directions. Then, the crane's body paused, and his old eyes suddenly shrank. The Sakura flower was not afraid of washing the fruit at all, and stabbed at her without any hesitation. Advertisement: he felt a huge threat. If he took another step forward, he would be crushed by the Sakura flower, so he had to retreat. Boom! The 5 vice admirals groaned at the same time, shaking Sakura so hard that armament hockey was completely shattered. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, and they were shot thousands of meters away. There is only one person who never retreats, Sakazuki. He was surrounded by lava, like a devil crawling out of a volcano. The punch is unstoppable, and he can confront thousands of swords head-on. Boom! He actually forced his way through the torrent of Sakura flowers. The torrent of Sakura flowers was shattered in an instant, and the gorgeous petals splashed in all directions. Magma boils. Sakazuki is unstoppable. This punch hit Levi's head directly. Yes. Dong. The magma roared and suddenly stopped. This punch was still half a meter away from Levi's head. The petals have returned and formed an indestructible iron wall, blocking Sakazuki's fist. The counter-shock force is turbulent, which is powerful enough to collapse a mountain. Sakazuki's eyes flashed. He took a few steps back and released his strength. Tick-tock. A drop of blood trickled, falling into the sea below. Sakazuki's right arm hung down weakly. The magma on my fist receded. Bloody and bloody. Sakazuki is injured. The first time he crushed the torrent of Sakura flowers, his fist was already cut by the sharp petals. How is that possible? Doberman's eyes suddenly narrowed. He didn't even bother to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. There is only shock in my heart. Sakazuki, the figure who stands at the top of Marine. Just a meeting, right hand, injured, and at the same time. Bah. Levi's right cheek, there was a wisp of white smoke coming out. On his face, there was an extra hair-width burn. Kuan. No wonder you lost. A hint of surprise flashed across his old and turbid eyes. Faced with the crowd's encirclement and suppression, Levi defeated Sakazuki 1-on-8 at the expense of a fist. In exchange, it only gave Levi a slight burn on his cheek. He had a bad premonition in his heart. She put her left hand behind her back. Trembling slightly. On the palm of the hand, there are hundreds of tiny blood holes, and blood is flowing out. She was also injured. Chapter 38. Surrounded and killed, Emperor Jing's sword finally breaks through the air, asking for flower evaluation votes. Levi, if you cannot be erased today, there will be no justice in this world. Sakazuki stared at Levi, with overwhelming murderous intent in his eyes. The 5 fingers of his injured right hand spread out and suddenly clenched. Boom, the air roars. With just a fist movement, the air was broken by Sakazuki's fist, and a popping sound was made. Magma flowed from his body again, as hot as the sun in a furnace. Sakazuki, in the name of absolute justice, will burn all evils of time. Raise your fist, dark red magma boils and kill again. Click. Kuzan took action at the same time, white air poured out of his mouth, and a chill instantly filled the air, overwhelming the sky and the earth, covering all directions. Boom, boom, boom. Icebergs appear out of thin air, condense on Levi's head, and crush him head-on with overwhelming force. This moment, the sky splits in half. On one side is the blue extreme ice, on the other side is the scorching high-temperature magma. The vice admirals also took action boldly. The power of the fist is unparalleled. The fist blasts out a sonic boom. The sword light is sharp, and the sword cuts through the sky. Levi was in the center of the field, surrounded by ice, fire, swords and shadows. He is still calm. The next second, he raised his hand, and Sakura flowers shot through the air, surging like turbulent water. The mighty Sakura flowers flowed in all directions, and each petal of the Sakura flower was a sharp blade. This made the air turbulent and filled the world with chill. Puff! The 6 vice admirals, including he, Huo Shaoshan, and Doberman, were hit head-on and flew upside down at the same time, vomiting blood. Levi turned his palm again, and Sakura flowers gathered like a tidal wave. The next moment, he raised his hands and pushed them out left and right. Thousands of Sakura flowers divided into 2 torrents, facing the ice and magma at the same time. Boom, the ice shattered and the magma was extinguished. The 2 admirals' attacks were blocked by Sakura at the same time. Deadlock. Kai. Sakazuki's bloody right fist collided with Sakura's flowers. The lava covering the fist surface was extinguished layer by layer, and the right fist, which was already bloody and fleshy, now revealed the dense white bones. However, he still ignored it and smashed Sakura into pieces with his fist, without any change in the expression on his face. Advertisement, click. There was a touch of cold air flowing under Kuzan's eyes, and the frosty air climbed up on his body, with most of his cheeks covered in frost. Just watch his hands push out horizontally, endless white energy burst out, and the flowing Sakura flower was frozen in an instant. Defeat the 2 admirals. Is it justice? Levi's eyes were dark and without a trace of emotion. I have been at sea for more than 2 years, and before today, I have never done a single bad thing. The people who died under my hands were all pirates who deserved their death. Facing the attack of the generals, Levi spoke calmly. I always stick to the bottom line, but what I get in exchange is, the whole world is chasing me. Sakazuki, do you know that during the time when the rumors first started, a Marine came to hunt me down? I was not wanted at that time. Tell me, is it justice to hunt down civilians without permission? Levi was calm from beginning to end. He didn't question, he just asked, as if he just wanted to know an answer. Marines who hunt down civilians should be executed according to military law. Sakazuki's bone-white right arm trembled slightly, but it quickly stopped as the magma covered it and readjusted to its optimal state. He is an iron-blooded soldier and an enforcer of absolute justice, who will never be affected at any time. Sakazuki changed the topic and his expression was cold. But, from the day the rumors appeared, you were no longer an ordinary person, but a factor that caused chaos in the world. No one will care whether the rumors are true or false. Your existence has become the source of cholera. As long as you are alive for one day, people will not stop coveting you. Only when you are erased can the world return to normal and justice can be executed. Sakazuki's eyes are hot, as if lava is flowing. Levi chuckled. Hearing Sakazuki's words, he did not answer, but waved gently again. The torrent of Sakura flowers gathered towards him again, brimming with beauty, yet murderous. This moment, Levi made a gesture holding his sword. The petals all over the sky spontaneously fell into Levi's hands, and thousands of Sakura flowers flew, bursting into ultimate brilliant light. Thousands of people in heaven and on earth heard a whisper, calm, indifferent, transcendent from this world. Final scene. Mighty sword. Boom, white light fills the air. Covered the sun and stars. Quick covered his eyes. He didn't dare to look directly. It was like a second sun rising in the sky. Gorgeous and dazzling. What happens? Who knows what happened? The crew members shouted. Advertisement. Some people still kept their eyes wide open as tears streamed down from them. This is a battle where the world's top combatants collide. It's a battle that can attract the attention of the whole world. The Quaker pirates are unfortunate, but also lucky. They were near the battlefield, and the crew members were affected and died, which was unfortunate. They were lucky enough to be near the battlefield and could see the battle. But now no one in the Quirk Pirates thinks about whether they are unlucky or lucky. They just want to open their eyes and see clearly what is happening on the battlefield in the sky. Boom, next moment. The white light dissipated, the sky screamed and trembled, and the seawater rolled back to meet it. Bang, bang. Two dull collision sounds resounded throughout the world. Everyone in the Quirk Pirates opened their mouths in disbelief. In the air, the two admirals flew out upside down. The Marines' code of justice behind them was shattered, and the word justice was blurred. The two admirals, the top combat power in the Marine, teamed up with the 6 vice admirals including Crane. This power could be suppressed by even the 4 emperors, but they were repulsed when facing Levi. No, this is not repulsion. Sakazuki and Kuzan rolled and slid thousands of meters in the air, coughing out blood from their mouths. Instead, he was beaten by Levi until he vomited blood. At the rear, several vice admirals were panting, their blood-stained Marine generals surrendered. That's not the most shocking thing. Levi, who was suppressed by everyone in Marine. He didn't even step back, he still stood where he was. The overwhelming Sakura petals disappeared, instead, he held a lightsaber in his hand. Behind the back, a pair of white wings of light extended, dazzlingly bright. Behind his head, a brilliant halo illuminated the sky, exuding unparalleled divinity. This moment, Levi is like a holy angel descending into the world, sacred and inviolable. Chapter 39. Kill Doberman, asking for flower evaluation votes. There are no longer Sakura flowers flying around Levi, they have all turned into lightsabers, light wings, and halos. The light wings covered the sky, still exuding a biting chill, and the surrounding air began to tremble, as if it was about to freeze into ice. This is the chill released by the gathering of thousands of Sakura flowers. The sense of oppression suddenly rises. Ms. He, please retreat to the rear. You are the commander of this battle and cannot be compromised here. Huo Shaoshan wiped away the blood that was about to flow into his eyes. His bronze face was pale at the moment, and his uniform, justice coat, and even the cigar in his mouth were soaked in blood. In front of Levi, there is no safe place even at the end of the sea. He took a deep breath. She was also not feeling well. Her hands were shaking, and there were tiny blood holes on them. Just the slightest movement would cause all the wounds to bleed. But, Huo Shaoshan wanted to say more. Crane waved his hands, looked at Levi solemnly, stepped on Moonwalk and rushed over, and the power of washing fruit exploded again. In this kind of king versus king battle, there is no strategy at all. Levi is standing here, neither hiding nor evading. As long as you are stronger than him, you can win this battle. Far away, the two admirals who were knocked away stood up at the same time. Ice and fire emerge again, and they are about to engulf the sky. Kuzan, Sakazuki, walking towards Levi again. They all had injuries of varying degrees. But the same thing is that these two admirals have bright and scary eyes. Go on, I don't believe that this guy's physical strength will not be exhausted, even if it is exhausted, it will consume him to death. A chill appeared on Doberman's scarred face, and he drew his sword and the dark armament hockey was instantly covered. Doberman, be careful. The ghost spider next to him suddenly shouted. His eyes widened, and a dazzling light reflected in his black pupils. Doberman was shocked. Turning around suddenly, behind him, Levi appeared with wings spread, his lightsaber raised high, and he slashed down in the air. Laugh, the lightsaber tore through the sky and roared into the sky. Mopei's power instantly enveloped Doberman's body, and the pressure as heavy as a mountain and the coldness as biting as frost appeared at the same time. Doberman found, he can't hide, I can only watch the sword fall. Not good. Kuzan and Sakazuki stared at each other at the same time. The two of them came with ice and lava, trying to stop this sword. However, useless. The lightsaber has already killed him. Doberman, Vice Admiral Doberman, this moment. Countless Marines shouted. Everyone witnessed with their own eyes that Doberman was cut down from the sky like a fleeting meteor. Advertisement. Boom, Doberman's body crashed into a nearby island. The surging power vibrated, the surface of the island was instantly sunk, countless spider webs and cracks were covered, and Uzumaki dust exploded. Doberman. Huo Shaoshan's eyes trembled violently. At this moment, the cigar in his mouth was bitten to pieces. The crimson and bright observation hockey flashed in his eyes. He saw through the distance of 1,000 meters and saw through the billowing smoke. Saw it. Doberman is in deep trouble. There was a huge bloody hole in his chest. My eyes are completely dim. Doberman, die. The headquarters dispatched 6 vice admirals, and now one of them has died. Levi, I will sacrifice your death for Doberman. Ghost Spider shouted angrily, his black hair flying, and his ugly features became more permeable in his anger, making him like an evil ghost crawling out of hell. Kill. Ghost Spider took the lead, and the samurai sword drew a cold light in the air, cutting the air, and the sword was extremely fierce. At the same time, Huo Shaoshan clenched his fist, and his huge black fist danced like an airtight ball, like hundreds of cannonballs falling at the same time. Bastille drew his sword and cut with it. The sword was as heavy as a mountain and unstoppable. From the side, Dalmatian has a strong body and moves like the wind. He raises his sharp claws and tears Levi's face apart. However, the four of them are not the real main attackers. From behind, he slapped his palm, and the power of the washing fruit exploded. Once it hit, even Levi would lose its shape and become a piece of clothing for you to be washed. This is the power that can truly threaten Levi. The 5 vice admirals form a killing net with no blind spots in an instant. Even facing a billion-dollar pirate is a desperate situation. However, face all this. Levi didn't even make a move to draw his sword. He just spread out the wings of light on his back, and his body turned back in the air. The wings of light were like 2 divine swords that opened the sky, sweeping in all directions. Puff, 5 muffled groans sounded, and the 5 vice admirals flew out. Next, Sakazuki and Kuan came through the air, filled with ice and fire, and fought with Levi again. Boom! The sound shook the sky, and countless magma and ice shattered and splashed out, causing a rain of ice and magma to fall in the sea area. Below, Marine raised his gun and fired, and the bullets formed a line and cut through the sky. During the battle, Levi knocked back Sakazuki with one sword. He didn't even look at the incoming bullets, and casually slashed with the lightsaber in his hand. The sword light was like a swimming dragon, destroying all the bullets from top to bottom, and crashed into the marine formation below. Boom! The ice surface broke, and hundreds of marines were wiped out by the sword light on the spot and turned into ashes without even being able to scream. On the island below, advertisement: a bald employee wearing a news agency uniform was holding an impact phone and snapping pictures of the air. One photo freezes. Sakazuki and Kuan, one on the left and one on the right, bring the punishment of ice and fire to Levi. Levi stands between the two, with a calm expression, and the light wings behind him cover the sky, so gorgeous. Next photo. It's the scene of Doberman trapped in a pothole, cut off from life. Big news. This is definitely big news that shocks the world. We must report it to the president immediately. With trembling fingers, the bald employee took out a phone bug from his pocket and made a shaky call. At the same time, New World, an inconspicuous island, it does not belong to any force, but it has great influence around the world. That's right. This is the lair of the giant of the underground world, Albatross. It is also the office of World Economic News. What to do, what title should I use as today's headline? Big things happen one after another, and I'm almost overwhelmed. Wearing a blue suit and a polite headband, Morgans, who looks like an old gentleman, is burying his head in front of his desk in distress. He grabbed his head frantically with both hands, leaving bird feathers all over the office floor. Puff, puff. The phone suddenly rang, briefly and rapidly. Damn B***********. If you don't have good news, you can pack your things and get out. Morgans grabbed the phone and went crazy on the spot. How dare you interrupt his train of thought, when just now he was almost thinking of the perfect title. But now that I got a phone call, my inspiration flew to the sky. President, there's big news, big news. The employee on the other end of the phone didn't care about the angry president and immediately started talking. Morgans's face changed little by little, from the initial irritability to now I am completely stunned. Next moment, Morgans looked up. Outside the window, hundreds of newsbirds flew towards me. They hold a photo in their mouths, among the most striking photos. Levi, Kuan, Sakazuki and the 6 vice admirals collide in the air. Stop all other reports. Prepare the ship. Everyone, come with me to the sea area where Marine and Levi are fighting. Be sure to get me the latest, fastest, and most explosive first-hand news. Morgans jumped up excitedly and put his foot on the chair. Get out of my way with any crappy headlines. He actually tore the news headline that he had been thinking about for a long time into pieces in one go. In the face of the battle between Levi and Marine, what other news is worth reporting? Chapter 40. Tearing magma and shattering ice, please vote for flowers. At the same time as the World Economic Society sets out. New World. Encirclement and Suppression Plan Combat Area. At this moment, this sea area is almost turned over. Dong, 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 earth-shattering collisions were occurring every minute and every second. This was an unreserved collision sound comparable to that of several mountains, and far more violent than the collision of large warships. Even if it happens in the air, it will cause the sea to tremble and the waves to roll and roar. No one could see clearly what was happening in the sky. You can only vaguely see the sword flashing across the sky, the magma burning the air, and the frost freezing the white clouds. This is an ultimate bloody battle, and blood is shed at every moment and spilled into the sea. Distant sea. Several pirate ships were anchored far away from the battlefield. Marine and Levi are fighting, and both sides will lose in this battle. Here's our chance. A vicious pirate whispered, his eyes flashing with greed. This moment, hundreds of pirates were attracted. They were like hyenas hiding in the darkness, waiting for the opportunity to appear. Suddenly, a brilliant sword light appeared in the sky, violently tearing ice and fire apart with an unstoppable momentum. Kuan and Sakazuki appeared and flew out again. Boom, the sword light did not stop, and with boundless murderous intent, it crashed into a small island below. In an instant, the island trembled like an earthquake, bursting into huge cracks, and split into 2 parts under everyone's horrified gaze. Levi slashed the 2 admirals with one sword, and at the same time, even the island was cut in half. Is this really something a human can do? Quick looked at the island in the distance with a lot of smoke and dust and swallowed hard. Marine. Can we really arrest Levi? Oli was shocked, and he had doubts about this siege. Before this, no one would have thought that Levi could deal with so many top Marines at the same time. Even a sea emperor who rules over the new world may be surrounded and suppressed. Could it be that Levi is enough to rival the 4 emperors? Oli stared at the sky blankly. These thoughts emerged uncontrollably in his mind. At this moment, the clothes of the 2 admirals were torn, and hideous sword marks were displayed on their bodies. The blood was evaporated by magma and frozen by ice as soon as it flowed out. Rear. The ghost spider's hands were fractured to the point that he could not lift them up. A black hair was flying on the back of his head, and he used the life-returning technique to turn his hair into arms to hold the knife. The Bastille mask was broken, half of the cheek was cut off, and even the teeth were exposed, looking extremely hideous. Advertisement: a large hole opened in Hua Xiaoshan's abdomen, and the squirming organs could be vaguely seen. It was just a hair away from being penetrated. Dalmatian's shoulder blade was severed, and the hideous wound made him look as if his whole body was about to be torn in half. Only Crane is still intact at this moment, only his hair is messed up and his coat is broken. However, this is the result of the 4 vice admirals' intense protection. They know that there can be no Hua Xiaoshan vice admiral in Marine, and there can be no Dalmatian vice admiral in Marine. But there can be no Crane vice admiral. Will this arrest really be successful? He took a deep breath and stared at the other side of the sky with her old eyes. Her eyes, which had always been firm, showed confusion for the first time. The sky in the distance. Levi stood calmly. The light wings and divine ring behind him are still eye-catching, and there is no sign of weakness in his successor. There weren't even many scars visible on his body, just the broken marine coat on his back, half-burnt marks and half-frost marks. This was a battle that touched Marine's foundation. Levi was stronger than anyone expected. Even with Marine's top combat power, he still couldn't finish him here. Face Levi. Sakazuki and Kuzan looked at each other and saw the fighting spirit in each other's eyes. The injuries on their bodies not only did not make them slump, but made these 2 strong men stand at the top of the world. Kuzan breathed out cold air, and endless cold air emerged around him. He just took a step forward, and the color of the sky changed, and everything was frozen. Kakaka. There was a cold light flowing in Kuzan's eyes, and he tapped his long fingers in the air. The rolling sea below suddenly stopped, and the frost spread, leaving the sea thousands of meters away to freeze. This kind of power can only be achieved by admiral-level experts. It is completely beyond the scope of human beings. Boom! Sakazuki stood in the sky, filled with lava. He was like a demon reborn from the ashes, emitting a terrifying temperature that even evaporated the air. At this moment, he was as dazzling as the sun. Sakazuki lives for absolute justice in his life. His justice is as hot as lava, swallowing up everything that stands in his way. Boom! Kuzan and Sakazuki moved at the same time. They all have only one action. Raise your right fist and hit Levi. This is the simplest action, but it was these 2 admirals who gathered all their power and made the final killing move. Kill! The 5 vice admirals roared at the same time. Everyone dragged their mutilated bodies and cooperated with the 2 admirals to launch the final attack. Facing the marine generals who were about to arrest him, Levi raised his sword. Advertisement: the White Emperor's sword soared into the sky, as brilliant as the vast sea of stars, tearing the heavens and the earth apart with its indomitable momentum. Levi attacks everyone who attacks at the same time with incredible speed. Time seems to stand still at this moment. The dark armament haki of Huashao Mountain covers the whole body, with 2 male lions fighting for prey. However, Levi just appeared in front of him and slashed it with a light sword. The flaming armament haki was as brittle as paper and shattered into powder. Well, Huo Xiaoshan's eyes widened and blood gushed from his mouth. His abdomen was completely pierced. Blood spurted out, and was wiped out by the breathtaking sword light before it was even half an inch away from Levi. Levi remained calm, and there was a chilling calmness in his dark eyes. When he moved again, his wings of light whirled, shattering the sky, and stabbed towards the ghost spider. Boom! The ghost spider's 8 swords were all shattered, and all the black hair on his head was broken. His eyes were horrified, but soon dimmed. The sword light has pierced his heart. Levi raised his arm again and swung 2 killing swords, one left and one right at the same time. Click! Bastille's body, which was charging forward, suddenly stopped, and his torso collapsed, but his head still rushed forward. Behead with 1 sword, staining the sky with blood. And another sword light. Cutting through the air, he headed straight towards the crane. Not good. The bright sword light reflected in Dalmatian's eyes. At this critical moment, he pushed away the crane and stood in front of her. Laugh! Dalmatian's already shaky body was broken into 2 parts, blood rose into the sky, and 1 arm and half of his shoulder fell into the sea. And also at the same time, Sakazuki and Kuzan held fists of fire and ice. Landed on Levi's chest. Boom! A dull thunderous sound suddenly exploded, and it could be clearly heard within 10,000 meters of the entire sea area. Chang! The sword light tore through the magma, shattered the ice, covered the heaven and earth, and submerged everything. Chapter 41. Sakazuki broke his arm. Kuzan broke his leg. asking for flower evaluation votes. Boom, the vast sword light penetrated the sky and the earth, pouring into the sky like a vast river, becoming the eternal light between heaven and earth. On the distant sea level, a huge ship is approaching quickly. Shoot them all for me, shoot them all, don't miss a single shot. Mogus jumped to his feet and shouted, his wings flapped, and he was so excited that he even wanted to fly. And just the next second, the white sword light cut through the sky and the collision of airwaves exploded, like a violent hurricane, tearing apart the world in all directions. Break, Mogus was immediately thrown into the air. He was horrified to find out, under the collision of airwaves, the ship he was riding on shook violently, the mast broke and the sail flew up. Mogus couldn't see what happened next, because he was turned over by the strong wind, with his head facing up, looking at the sky. This, Mogus' beak opened wide, and he saw an incredible scene. And the next moment, the president of the newspaper showed extremely high professionalism. His body was suspended in midair, but he was holding a video phone bug in his hand, pointing it at the sky, clicking consecutive cards. This photo is destined to become the most treasured photo of all time. Because it clearly shows the final result of this battle. In the photo, Levi stands tall and straight, holding a lightsaber in a killing posture. All around him, Kuan, Sakazuki, Tsuru, and the 4 vice admirals all fly upside down. Boom! Kuan hit the ice on the surface of the sea hard, and the surging force instantly shattered the ice. Boom! The sea rolled and was about to swallow Kuan. Click! At this critical moment, the cold is spreading, and the seawater that is about to swallow Kuan's back will turn into ice. Kuan took a deep breath, raised his head, and stared at the figure still standing in the sky. All Marines fell to the ground. Levi still stands firm in the sky. But his shirt was completely torn, and the Marine coat behind him was reduced to ashes, exposing his strong chest. This moment, advertisement dragging his tired body and suffering most of the casualties, Marine felt more excited than ever. They saw it, on Levi's chest, there are 2 crossed X-shaped scars. One line was brown-purple, frostbite, one was dark red and scalded. This is Kuan and Sakazuki's scar on Levi. Levi was injured. Is this powerful man finally defeated? All Marines were excited like never before, with hope shining in their eyes. Kuan Admiral, your legs, and at this moment, Marine shouted. He pointed at Kuan's leg and shouted in great panic. I saw. Kuan's right leg was empty. This Marine Admiral, at the cost of losing his right leg, left a line of frostbite on Levi's chest. At the same time, on the other side of the battlefield, another extremely anxious shout came. Sakazuki Admiral, wake up. A Marine supported Sakazuki, his face full of panic and fear. This iron-blooded soldier, the absolute enforcer of justice who seems to never fall, has closed his eyes, not knowing whether he is alive or dead. There was a large penetrating hole in his chest, and a large amount of blood surged out, completely dyeing Marine's uniform blood red, and even the ice beneath him was dyed red by the blood seeping out. What's even more shocking is, Sakazuki's right arm disappeared. The price he paid for leaving scars on Levi was even more painful. Tragic news keeps coming from all over the place. The mountain was burned with fire, his abdomen was pierced, and he was unconscious. Ghost Spider, heartbroken, die, Bastille, beheaded, dead. In Dalmatian, half of the body was torn apart, and he was on the verge of death. Even if he survived, he would be disabled for life. Plus Doberman, the 5th Vice Admiral of the headquarters participated in the operation, 3 were killed and 2 were seriously injured. The other side, Hikang's hair was messy and her coat was torn. Under the deliberate protection of the Vice Admirals, she did not die, but her arms were also broken. She looked around at the chaos and her heart twitched. This was undoubtedly Marine's huge loss. This siege and suppression is over and ended in failure. Withdraw. He said this word in a low voice. This command is transmitted quickly on the battlefield. Advertisement. How so? We lost. At this moment, countless Marines roared suppressively, their eyes red. No one could have imagined that it would be such a result. Sakazuki, Kuan, Tsuru, and the 5 Vice Admirals of the headquarters, with such a large-scale combat power, the encirclement and suppression of Levi ended in failure. Moreover, the losses were heavy, with only 2 out of 10 warships left, and out of the thousands of Marines, not even 1 was left. 3 of the 5 Vice Admirals were killed and 2 were seriously injured. Even if Dalmatian could be cured, he would probably have to retire due to his serious injuries. And the 2 admirals are disabled for life. Kuan watched all this silently, accepting his defeat. He stood up, the ice condensed into the shape of his right leg, and walked towards Sakazuki, wanting to evacuate with the unconscious Sakazuki. And right at this moment, Levi in the sky moved. He took a step forward and landed in front of Kuan, blocking Kuan and Sakazuki. Finish? He doesn't approve. Levi's eyes were calm, but he clearly expressed his will. Levi, if you keep fighting with us, we will both lose in the end. Someone has already come to pick it up. Crane strode up, dragging his useless arms. The sea in the distance. Dozens of pirate ships were parked. They were like hyenas waiting for opportunities in the shadows. They did not launch a killing charge, but just waited for opportunities in the distance. But precisely because of this, it gives people invisible pressure. Among these pirate groups, there are many pirate groups with more than 1 billion. Even, among them, the pirate flag of the Four Emperors pirate group can be seen floating. As soon as Levi or Marine show signs of fatigue, they will swarm in and eat the cake. We lost this battle, but you won't get much benefit if we continue to fight, he said in a deep voice, his eyes falling on Levi's chest. The X-shaped wound is still getting worse, ice and fire were eroding Levi's chest. Ms. Crane, Marine General Staff Officer. Levi was unaware of the injuries on his body. He watched the Crane speak softly, his face always calm and relaxed. I am alone and have enemies all over the world. Even if I die here today, no one will cry for me. What fear does death have for me? Hear the words. His heart trembled. She understood what Levi meant. Levi's existence was indeed like this. He was lonely all the time. He had no worries and no bonds. Rear. The Marine was retreating, and several vice admirals were carried back to the warship. Levi doesn't care. His target is only the few people in front of him. Kuzan, Sakazuki, Suru are indispensable beings in Marine. Mr. Garp will be sad if you die. Kuzan suddenly spoke. He looked at Levi and said such an unexpected sentence. Chapter 42. Hizai sacrificed his life to calm down his anger. Please vote for flowers. Garp would feel sorry for Levi. Crane's eyes flickered, and she knew that Kuzan's words were not delaying time, but that they were indeed. After the battle in Firebird Country, Garp returned to his headquarters. The first words out of his mouth were not about victory or defeat, but, "Oops, I forgot to ask that guy if the soba noodles are delicious. It tastes so good when he eats them. Sengoku, do you think I should have a bowl of noodles with him before we fight? It's a pity. If there is another chance next time, I have to ask Levi to treat me to a bowl of soba noodles. Sengoku, why don't you think of a way to get him to join Marine?" To this day, he still remembers the way Garp was beaming when he said these words. That kind of appreciation can't be pretended, it comes from the heart. Garp? Levi smiled lightly. Then it seems I'm not very pitiful. There are still people who will feel sad for me. He could no longer maintain the final scene White Emperor sword, and even Bankai could no longer maintain it. The Sakura flowers in the sky shrank and turned into branches again and were held in Levi's hands. But, the branches shook the air, and the sword light was still shining brightly. Levi has really reached the end of his strength, and the scar on his chest is after all the trauma left by the two admirals at the cost of lifelong disability. The lava burns and the ice freezes. The two completely opposite forces are like tarsal maggots, devouring everything that consumes Levi. But he still had the power for the last sword left. This sword is enough to kill several more people. Can't we stop? He asked. The most intelligent chief of staff in the world finally showed signs of fatigue. Why should we stop? Not enough people have died. Levi was indifferent, his dark eyes without a trace. 3 vice admirals are dead, he said in a low voice. Not enough. Levi's words echoed in this tragic and blood-stained battlefield. Countless Marines felt aggrieved. The encirclement and suppression operation failed, and they were forcefully defeated by Levi. He had taken the initiative on the battlefield, and whether it ended or not was all decided by him. And just then, I can give you my life. Kuzan walked towards Levi and said in a very calm tone. I lost originally, but now I will give my life back to you. Before Levi could speak, he stopped him. You can't die. He knew very well that Admiral must not die here no matter what, otherwise Marine's strength would be damaged, the entire Grand Line would be in chaos, the New World pirates would have to counterattack, and even the Four Emperors pirate group might take action. By the time, the whole world will fall into war, and countless people will have their families destroyed. Advertisement. This is definitely not what Crane wants to see. Ms. Crane. Kuzan wanted to speak, but was interrupted by he. If you still call me Ms. He, back off. She was giving orders in a commanding tone. After saying that, he looked at Levi with twinkling eyes. Although I am old, I am still strong enough. She stopped Kuzan, walked up to Levi, and actually wanted to go forward and die herself. This moment, Hua Xiaoshan's eyes were about to burst with blood still pouring out of his mouth. Hua Xiaoshan wanted to speak, but couldn't speak. He couldn't find a reason to speak out. Crane. He was trading his life for Marine survival, his life for the peace of the world, and his life for the stability of ordinary people. He is on fire. He cannot speak, cannot stop, and is not qualified to stop. As a vice admiral, I am not even qualified to be a bargaining chip to stop Levi. This is a great shame. The campaign against Levi ended up with this result. Whether the whole world is overturned or not, it all depends on Levi's thoughts. Hua Xiaoshan is already predictable. No matter what happens in the end, Levi will be unstoppable and become one of the pinnacle figures of this era. In the field, Levi looked at Crane, and he suddenly smiled. A Marine hero from the same era as Garp is naturally worthy of his weight. Next moment, Levi raised the branch in his hand, and the cold sword light cut through the sky, and slashed towards the Crane. Crane's hair was raised, and the sword light had already pierced her cheek before it came. Levi. In the distance, there was a sudden loud roar. This voice is familiar to everyone. It's Marine hero Garp. On the sea, 3 warships came riding the wind, with the marine flag flying. Marine reinforcements have arrived. Bo. Garp, Perusalino stands. Behind them were a group of Marines and CP0 in white suits. Advertisement. At this moment, Garp's expression suddenly changed. He saw Levi raising his sword and slashing at the crane. In this desperation, Garp shouted out Levi's name. However, the sword light still did not stop, and it slashed towards the crane. Laugh. This moment, countless Marines' eyes were about to burst with anger, and everyone saw that in the light of the sword, the crane covered in blood fell into the sea. This Marine General Staff Officer sacrificed his life to calm Levi's anger for the sake of Marines' future. The eyes of all Marines were red, and the tears could not stop flowing. Call out, Perusalino transformed into a stream of light and rushed towards the crane that fell into the sea. However, Garp was faster. Like a bolt of lightning that cut through the dark night sky, he appeared at the moment when the crane was about to fall into the sea. Boom! Garp crushed the sea and carried the crane into the air. He held his old friend who had fought for Marine all his life, and his fingers couldn't stop trembling. However, in the next second, Garp's expression changed. He felt that crane was still breathing weakly. Life hangs on a thread. This is. Garp suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. Levi turned his back to everyone. There were Sakura flowers blooming beside him. Among the thousands of flying flowers, he disappeared little by little. Yo, Garp. Levi turned his head, a faint smile on his face. In this smile, he completely disappeared. Only his faint words echoed throughout the world. There are so few people in this world who can be sad for me. Hey, I still shouldn't be soft-hearted. Garp, if you have a chance, let's have a bowl of noodles together. No, there's no chance. Chapter 43. The 5th Emperor is born. Please vote for flowers. Petals of Sakura flowers drifted faintly on the sea, and then completely turned into shadows and disappeared. Did you hold back? Garp looked at the direction Levi left with complicated eyes. He knew that Levi would hold back in the end, otherwise Crane would have died. Garp, if you have a chance, let's have a bowl of noodles together. No, there is no chance. In my ears, Levi's words seemed to still be lingering. Garp looked around the battlefield. Marine was badly injured and the sea was soaked in blood. He saw Huashanshan and Dalmatian lying on stretchers, Doberman who died in battle, Ghost Spider, Bastille. Yes. No chance. Garp's eyes were deep. He hugged the crane and stood up. Ms. He is not dead yet. Hurry up. Behind him, Marine medical soldiers swarmed up. I've said before that this action shouldn't have happened. Garp looked into the distance and whispered in a voice that only he could hear. On the sea, dozens of pirate ships ready to go, moved. They showed their fangs and bit Marine hard when he was at his weakest and most critical moment. On this day, the operation to encircle and suppress Levi, which shocked the whole world, ended with Marine's disastrous defeat. After that, the New World pirates were in turmoil, launching a surprise attack on the severely damaged Marine, and collided again. Among them, even pirates from the Big Mom Pirates and Beasts Pirates participated in the raid. This battle lasted until the sun rose the next day before it came to an end. The final result ended with Marine winning. This has to be shocking to see how powerful Marine is. Even Marine, who was severely injured by Levi, still suppressed the turbulent pirates in New World. In this battle that lasted for a day and night, Marine lost a total of 13 warships, killed 2,328 soldiers, and captured 1,106 pirates. Vice Admiral killed 3 people and seriously injured 5 people. Admiral Kuzan and Sakazuki were seriously injured and were disabled for life. The subsequent pirate raid only caused serious injuries to 2 Vice Admirals. Among them, the one who really dealt a serious blow to Marine's top combat power was Levi. It can be said that his threat level alone exceeds that of all the New World pirates who subsequently raided. Advertisement: use your own power to severely damage Marine. And what Marine left for Levi? Just 2 scars on the chest. No matter how strong Marine performed in the end, everyone knew that Marine would be severely damaged after this battle. Kuzan fought against the New World pirates with his broken body, and eventually fell into a coma from exhaustion. He was still awake 10 days after the war. Crane endured Levi's last sword, his life hanging by a thread, and he still didn't wake up 10 days after the war. Sakazuki wakes up on the 8th day after the war. That day, the entire naval headquarters could hear his roar, furious Sakazuki. However, this admiral, who holds high the banner of absolute justice, is destined to be in silence for a while, and his injuries still need to be nursed back to health. This battle is destined to destabilize and change the world structure. This battle will be named by later generations as the Battle of the 5th Emperor's Landing. On behalf of Levi, he came to the New World and became the 5th Emperor of the Sea. Levi, coming to the New World for the first time, became emperor by himself, with a bounty of 5 billion. The 5th Emperor of the Sea was born. One person became an emperor, and one person formed a regiment, but he was enough to rival thousands of armies. The world is shocked by the power of the 5th Emperor Levi, but under the undercurrent, there is such a message quietly moving. Levi's abilities change every day, are not stable and can kill. This is the CP organization fueling the fire behind the scenes. Most people who heard this news shook their heads in disbelief. How could he be weak if he could become the 5th Emperor? Rumor has it that Auntie is also unstable and suffers from intermittent episodes of narcosis. Why hasn't anyone killed Auntie? Kaido is also unstable, moody, and even looks for ways to kill himself. Why is no one able to catch Kaido like this? There are 4 emperors left, one is old and the other has a broken arm, but aren't they still the sea emperors standing at the top of the world? This news is complete bullshit and is just a lie to children. However, even so, there were still people whose eyes flickered after hearing the news. This sounds like a lie, but it's not entirely false. Levi's ability is indeed different every time it is revealed. Advertisement after the war, the 10th day. The sea in New World is extremely vast, and a large pirate ship with a dragon's head on its bow and a red body is hovering on the sea. And in front of this pirate ship, it's the Moby DK that looks like a whale. This is a scene that shocked all pirates. 4 emperors Redhead and 4 emperors Whitebeard met on the sea. Newgate, I have gone through countless battles, and of all the scars I have, this is the only one that still hurts. Shanks stood at the bow of the boat. He looked at the strongest man in the world who was sitting on the steps opposite, and pointed at the 3 scars on his eyes. This was not caused by an adventure, nor was it injured by Mihawk. It was Blackbeard Teach who left me this scar. Newgate, stop Ace before things get worse, Teach. As soon as these 2 words came out, Whitebeard's eyes trembled slightly. 10 days ago, at the moment when Marine and Levi collided, something happened on the Whitebeard ship. As long as you board the ship, no matter how stupid you are still my son. However, Teach broke the iron rule and crossed the thunder pool. Do you want to tell me what to do? The snot-nosed kid has become eloquent. Whitebeard stood up boldly, with an extraordinary momentum rising. This is Conquerors. At the same time, Conquerors appeared on Shanks, and the 2 Conquerors collided violently. Boom. At this moment, the sea shook and the color of the heaven and earth changed. Shanks, I won't stop Ace, Teach deserves to be punished. Whitebeard stood on the bow of the ship, and the terrifying power belonging to the world's #1 man was surging. Even the clouds in the sky collapsed at this moment, as if a hole had opened in the sky. Shanks looked at Whitebeard with a complicated expression. This is your ship's business after all. After a while, he took back the Conquerors and sighed softly. Newgate, Teach and the 5th Emperor who emerged from nowhere are all heralding that the world will undergo earth-shaking changes. This era is about to usher in big changes. Whitebeard's expression changed several times, and finally he narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice. The 5th Emperor, Levi? Chapter 44. It's so revealing, I won't wear it, please vote for flowers. The 5th Emperor, Levi? I have heard of him. He is an extraordinary figure in this era. Whitebeard's eyes narrowed slightly, and he thought of the situation when Margao and others got the newspaper that day. It's amazing. Even the captain was not as fierce as Levi when he was young. Shanks chuckled lightly, a look of memories appeared on his face, and the scenes of getting along with Roger emerged one after another. I have to lament how powerful Levi is, even One Piece Roger was weaker at the same time. Levi may be like the captain, sooner or later he will bring changes to the world. Shanks has deep eyes not far away. Margao's eyes flashed slightly as he straddled the railing. In just 10 days, the world has undergone such great changes. Levi ascends to the 5th Emperor, Teach assassinates Thatch. And it was Sachi's death that made Margao's desire for Levi's blood reach its peak. If there was Levi's blood, can Saki be resurrected? Can all these regrets be made up for? However, Levi, who has become the 5th Emperor. Is there still a chance to attack him? While Margao was thinking in his mind, he felt a strange gaze and raised his head to meet Shanks' gaze. Levi is very difficult to deal with. He is not someone who can be dealt with easily. Shanks looked away. He seemed to be praising Levi, but in fact he was also reminding Margao. Whitebeard's situation is obvious to all, so how could Shanks not guess Margot's thoughts? In fact, not to mention Margao, Beckman and others also had similar ideas. After hearing the rumors about Levi for the first time, Beckman proposed to take action against Levi, but Shanks refused. Shanks, don't you want your arm back? Margao's mind was seen through and he had no hidden thoughts. He looked at Shanks and asked curiously. I don't need it. It's just losing an arm. My strength will not be affected, it will only make me stronger. Shanks grinned, but his ordinary words contained strong confidence. This is Shanks, even if he didn't eat any devil fruit, lost an arm, and still ranked among the 4 emperors. And the influence of red hair pirates is still expanding. However, the next moment, Shanks stopped smiling and changed the topic. Don't confront that guy, even I'm not sure. Advertisement in his words, Shanks did not hide his fear. Margao was startled. Even Shanks isn't confident about facing Levi? What a joke. Levi has just ascended to the position of Emperor of the Sea, and has not even established his own force. How can he alone make Shanks wary? Margao frowned. He needed to reconsider dealing with Levi. Whether it's Shanks' attitude or Levi's strength in the encirclement and suppression battle, they all illustrate Levi's weight. At the same time the 2 sea emperors met. Levi was walking leisurely on the streets of Dressrosa. He didn't care about the bloody storm outside. He just lived like that, as he should. He looked down at his clothes. The upper collar of the white shirt was open, revealing a large scarred chest, which was ferocious and twisted, like an irregular flame burning. The injury has been stabilized and under control, and all aspects of physical fitness have gradually returned to their peak. The only difference from before is that Levi no longer wears a Marine uniform. The Marine uniform and the Code of Justice were shattered in that battle. First didn't meet Marine after that, so I just put on ordinary clothes for the time being. Do you want to change it? Levi thought about this problem and walked on the road casually. Dressrosa is more comfortable than expected. This is known as the country of toys of love and passion. There are toys walking around on the streets. It looks harmonious and beautiful, as if you have entered the world of Grimm's fairy tales. But, the premise of all this is to ignore the darkness under the toys. Levi didn't care about this. He looked around. There was a tall and magnificent Colosseum in the distance. The roar inside was boiling and could be heard far away. Just at this time, a girl with pink hair walked into the Colosseum gate. It's so revealing. I wouldn't wear this kind of clothes. Levi blinked as he was thinking about what to wear. In the three-point style, everything is missing except that it cannot be missed. Put it on yourself. Wouldn't it be cosplaying Spartan on the spot? Levi suddenly thought of something. The girl walking into the Colosseum looked familiar. Rebecca? Shaking his head, Levi didn't have time to care. He's here for vacation. Advertisement, I was thinking. Levi walked slowly towards the nearby taiyaki shop. He heard that Dressrosa's taiyaki tastes great and is one of the Grand Line's best specialties. You can smell the aroma of taiyaki from half a street away. Levi walked casually. Suddenly, the one-legged toy soldier passed him by. Cyrus was shocked. He suddenly turned around and looked at the back of Levi, who was walking leisurely across the street, and his eyes suddenly shrank. Yes. Cyrus recognized Levi's identity. The fifth emperor came to Dressrosa. If Cyrus had not become a toy soldier, his face would have changed several times now. What's wrong? Rebecca walked up from behind and looked at Cyrus curiously. Cyrus shook his head. He did not speak and could not speak. He suppressed the thoughts in his heart and followed Rebecca again to the Colosseum. After walking a few steps, Cyrus took a deep breath and couldn't help but look back. Levi has disappeared. Levi walked out of the suit store. Already wearing a white suit, he was holding freshly baked taiyaki in one hand and milk in the other. Eat a bite of taiyaki and drink a sip of milk. The combination of the charred flower skin, the mellow milk, and just the right amount of sweetness becomes a bomb that explodes on the taste buds, making people feel a sense of satisfaction and happiness. Delicious food is indeed the start of a good mood for the day. Levi narrowed his eyes slightly and sighed from the bottom of his heart. This is the joy of foodies. Simple and happy. The streets suddenly became noisy, and more people ran to the Colosseum. It seemed that a fiery game was about to begin. Would you like to go see the Colosseum? Levi said to himself that he had never seen a game at the Colosseum. It should be as exciting as a football game, right? But, just when Levi looked up towards the Colosseum, his sight happened to see the glorious and majestic palace. There is the residence of Doflamingo, King's Heights. Next moment, an idea came to Levi's mind. He disappeared in place. Chapter 45. The uninvited guest who broke into Dover's bedroom. Please give me a vote for flowers. At the same time Levi disappeared. On the high ground of the king, outside the magnificent palace, there were two figures standing. They are tall and have a thick and ferocious aura that naturally exudes. This is the aura of a ferocious pirate, but standing here makes people feel infinite oppression and involuntary fear. These two people, they are the two top leaders in Beast's pirates. Drought, Jack. Fire Disaster. Jin. Tell Joker that we have brought Bailey and let him prepare for the transaction. Jack stared condescendingly at the members of the Don Quixote family guarding the palace gate and spoke in a deep voice. In his hand, he held a large black box. The contents inside were all large denomination Baileys, amounting to hundreds of millions. They want to trade with Doflamingo in exchange for artificial devil fruit. At the same time, inside the palace, Doflamingo's bedroom. A figure was standing on the floor, and in front of him, all the closet doors were opened. Internal, on display are all sunglasses of the same color. It's scary. Levi scratched his head. Doflamingo wears so many glasses, and never takes them off. Is he really covering up his eyes? He couldn't help but think of the Doflamingo truth map that had been circulating on the internet. Could it be that the shady netizens were right? Doflamingo is really squinting and beady-eyed? I really want to take away the Doflamingo glasses and take a look. This thought came to Levi's mind, but Levi didn't forget the goal of this trip. He took out all Doflamingo's fur coats from the corner of the closet, and after carefully selecting them, he put on the white and pink fur coat that Doflamingo wore the most. He picked up his sunglasses and put them on. As for the beanie shoes and tight pants, forget it, I'm so energetic. Levi still likes his leather shoes and suit pants. Advertisement looked in the mirror. The sunglasses cover most of his face, but the outfit already looks like Doflamingo. If it's Dover. Levi saw the red wine on the edge of the table. He is no stranger at all. He is familiar with the way, as if he is the owner of this room. He picks up the red wine and fills up a glass for himself. Sitting astride the sofa, Levi looked out the window. Bah. He swayed the red wine and let out a self-amused laugh. He had quite a majestic temperament. Young master, why are you here? Jack and the others are here. Suddenly, A confused voice came from outside the door. Pika was looking for Dover to complete the deal, but halfway there, she suddenly heard the young master's signature laughter coming from the bedroom. At this glance, the young master is really sitting on the sofa. But the question is, shouldn't the young master be having afternoon tea on the top floor at this time? But the next second, Pika's expression changed. This man, who has followed Doflamingo for many years and is one of the top officials of the Don Quixote family, noticed something was wrong. The young master on the sofa has black hair. You are not. Pika was wary, and just when she was about to speak, the young master on the sofa turned around. Levi? Pika's eyes suddenly widened, and he saw clearly the face of the man on the sofa. The lower half of his face under the sunglasses and the irregular flame-burning scar exposed at the collar of his slightly open shirt all revealed the identity of the person in front of him. He is Levi, who single-handedly ascended to the throne of Sea Emperor. Especially the scar on his chest, just one look at it will make people shudder, and they can't help but think back to the battle of the 5th Emperor that dyed the Sea Red. This is by no means a shame, but a symbol of absolute strength. He fought alone and half of Marine's top-level combat force was bedridden. The price he paid was just a scar on his chest. Facing Pika, who recognized his identity, Levi just smiled. The high wine glass in his hand swayed gracefully, and the red wine swayed with it. No, this is Don Quixote Dovron Levi, advertisement. After saying that, Levi drank the red wine in one gulp. Pika's body was trembling, and her nose was running down. In front of the newly promoted 5th Emperor, he did not dare to underestimate him. Marine told the world at a painful price that there is no doubt about the power of this 5th Emperor. And just the next second, the window opened without warning, and a breeze blew. Levi sitting on the sofa disappeared, snapped, the red wine glass fell to the ground with a crisp cracking sound. Pika stared blankly at the empty sofa and the gently shaking window. He was stiff for more than 10 seconds before he came to his senses and sat down on the ground, his whole body wet with cold sweat. Then Pika suddenly got up and rushed towards the top of King's Heights. After a while, the top of King's Heights, the place with the most sunshine in Dressrosa. Doflamingo is holding a newspaper and enjoying afternoon tea leisurely. Beside him, 2 major cadres, Pika and Diamante, stood respectfully, accompanying the young master on both sides. Dover, that Lilili Levi, he came to the palace. A high decibel scream suddenly sounded. Doflamingo looked and saw Pika running over in a panic. He screamed in a high voice and looked very panicked. The expressions of Torbil and Diamante changed at the same time, and their eyes flashed with surprise. Levi? The 5th Emperor Levi is here with us? Torbil shed a string of snot, his slovenly face full of solemnity. He thought about the recent rumors about Levi. His reputation is so great that just hearing these 2 words is like a mountain pressing on his chest, suffocating him. Levi, who turned the world upside down. Diamante clenched her hands into fists, and there was cold sweat on her palms. Chapter 46. Joker, are you an idiot? Asking for flower evaluation votes? Levi caused Marine a big loss this time. It is said that Marine was furious because of this, and the Commander-in-Chief Kongdu issued a statement that Levi must be arrested. A drop of sweat dripped from Torbil's forehead, and his expression changed several times. The current turmoil in the New World must have a lot to do with Levi. I'm afraid Marine is going to war in the New World to intimidate others, using blood to show Marine's power. Diamante took a small breath. Doflamingo is one of the 7 warlords of the sea. According to past regulations, if Marine launches a large-scale war in the New World, the Don Quixote family must provide a certain degree of help. But this time, no, Marine did not mobilize any Shichibukai, and suppressed the unrest in the New World with one shot and one shot. This is a demonstration, and it also prevents Marine from being shaken in military morale, using blood and death to win battles one after another and restore Marine's reputation. In Marine's almost all-cost campaign, the turmoil in New World has gradually subsided, and the restless pirates have tended to stabilize. After all, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. When the 4 emperors are not moving, it is basically impossible to overthrow Marine just by relying on other pirate groups, not to mention that Marine is not so skinny. World government has been standing for many years, and its foundation are absolutely terrible. The terrifying guy who single-handedly overturned the stable structure has come to our place. What exactly does he want to do? Damn it, those guys Dover invited are already on their way, the party is about to start, nothing can happen at this juncture. Torbil tapped his cane lightly on the ground, his dirty and ugly face full of solemnity. No one dares to be disrespectful when facing this 5th Emperor. Ha, Pika, where did you see Levi? Doflamingo had already stood up from his seat, his tall figure blocking the sun. In your room, young master, he is still wearing your clothes. Pika said hurriedly, her voice high-pitched and harsh. The 5th Emperor actually came to my place. Doflamingo grinned. This 7 warlords of the sea, the former great lord of the celestial dragons. At this moment, knowing that Levi appeared in his bedroom, he still walked over. Little lord, behind him, Pika hesitated to speak, but then gritted his teeth and quickly followed. Advertisement Torbil and Diamante followed closely behind. Even facing the 5th Emperor Levi, the Don Quixote family will not back down. Royal Palace, in the bedroom. Wait until Doflamingo arrives. There was no one in the room, except for the broken glass and the open wardrobe. One coat is missing. There is also a pair of sunglasses missing. Doflamingo deduced the loss in an instant. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, there were footsteps in the corridor outside the door. Pika's expression in the room changed and his body trembled slightly. Could it be that Levi didn't leave but came back? But the next second, two tall figures stepped out of the shadows and stood in front of Doflamingo's bedroom. It's Jack and Jin. Pika's eyes narrowed, and then he let out a long sigh of relief. Luckily it's not Levi. Although she didn't flinch, if she collided with Levi head-on, Pika would really not feel confident at all. Joker, it's really unique for you to meet us in your room. Jin looked at Doflamingo. His face was covered by a mask, and his expression could not be seen. But just from the tone, you can feel a hint of teasing. The dignified Shichibukai, the ruler of Dressrosa, meets people in his bedroom to discuss business? Dover is here for a reason. Levi has just arrived. Torble was the first to speak out. He could not tolerate outsiders insulting Doflamingo. As soon as these words came out, the entire palace seemed to tremble slightly. Where is Levi? Jack stepped in, his eyes red. Advertisement. He remembered the shame that Levi had brought to him, not to mention being kicked into the sea. The mammoth had gone to an unknown place and had probably become a pile of debris. At this moment, when he heard Levi's appearance, Jack's first thought was to regain his position. Jack, do you still dare to take the initiative to find Levi? He is now the 5th Emperor of the Sea. Doflamingo chuckled, and a strange light flashed through his eyes hidden under his sunglasses. So what? Jack's eyes were fierce. Joker, do you think I'm afraid of him? He is like a furious beast, ready to explode at any time without any scruples. This is the arrogant and violent side of Jack. No matter how strong Levi is, he will not be afraid. It is precisely because of this character that Jack dared to be captured in Doflamingo and charge into the Marine fleet with Marine Admiral Fujitora, Sengoku and Crane guarding him. Seeing that Jack was going crazy, Jin slowly raised his hand. Quiet, Jack. Brother. Jack's eyes were still blood red. You are no match for Levi. The fact that he survived that siege already shows that he was not lucky to defeat you in the first place. Jin said in a deep voice, with the highest degree of vigilance towards Levi. Jin thought that if it were him, he might not be able to survive the siege. Not to mention forcefully forcing Marine to give an explanation like Levi. In the end, he almost killed General Staff Crane under the eyes of Garp, Perusalino and other reinforcements. If they're 3 natural disasters, or all monsters, then Levi is the monster among monsters. But, and at this moment, Doflamingo suddenly said, it's not like Levi can't be dealt with, blah 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 blah. Jin looked over. You want to deal with Levi? I wouldn't dare. Doflamingo shrugged. I don't dare to face that kind of monster, but with you guys, I think there is still hope to deal with him. Doflamingo has a sparkle in his eyes. Levi's value is too high, terrifyingly high. If he can catch Levi, he will have the leverage to negotiate with the 5 elders, or even force the 5 elders. Levi is very powerful, but the benefits that come with him are also terrifying enough, worthy of his power. Joker, I always thought you were a smart person, but now it seems you are an idiot, Jin said indifferently. The 3 of them are indeed strong, but when it comes to fighting, they are still not as good as Marine's lineup. Even Marine will lose, so what's the difference between them? Chapter 47. Finalize the plan, the key weapon, sugar, asking for flower evaluation votes. Joker, are you an idiot? Jin cursed when he opened his mouth. His words were harsh and there was no hint of tact. Don't be so imbued with other people's ambitions that you destroy your own prestige. The smile on Doflamingo's face did not diminish. He walked to the window and looked at the Kadri Tower in the distance. The Kadri Tower towered into the clouds, and a window was open. The green-haired girl was holding her chin with her hands, looking at the scenery outside the window idly. Suddenly, the green-haired girl noticed Doflamingo and waved to him excitedly. Sugar, the top Kadri of the Don Quixote family, the most important figure in Dressrosa, and Doflamingo's secret weapon, a user with the childlike fruit ability. This childlike fruit, as long as it is touched by sugar, the opponent will turn into a toy soldier and be 100% controlled. Doflamingo is aware of Levi's strength. If he, Jin, and Jack join forces, even if they include the Kadris of the Don Quixote family, it is unlikely that they can win against this monster 5th Emperor. But they have granulated sugar. Sugar's childlike fruit ability is enough to make the impossible possible. As long as the sugar touches Levi lightly, the 5th Emperor can be defeated single-handedly. The Marine siege could leave scars on Levi's chest. Doflamingo didn't think that he and the others would give everything they had to not even have a chance to touch Levi. The most important thing is, Levi has no idea about the abilities of the sugar childlike fruit. For a child of how old, how could Levi be wary? Jin also saw sugar waving at him from the Kadri Tower. With just one glance, he understood what Doflamingo was thinking. It's just. Jin's eyes flickered. The person he had to deal with was Levi after all. This newly promoted Sea Emperor had enough weight to make people hesitate. Levi's body is special. If he is given to Guy for research, he may be able to develop a real devil fruit instead of a defective product like Smile. Doflamingo suddenly said. I came here with the intention of making a deal. Jin's eyes narrowed, the flames behind him trembled, and the conversation suddenly changed. But what you said is quite good. He was moved. There is indeed some truth to what Doflamingo said. It is indeed possible to research the real devil fruit using Levi. Advertisement, even if it's not a real devil fruit, it's enough to take the research results to the next level. Jin knows that Boss Kaido is destined to cause a turmoil in the future. He wants the era of riots to come and he will definitely create an invincible army. If a real devil fruit can be developed, the strength of Beast's pirates will take a qualitative leap. In the 3 natural disasters, no one is greedy for life and afraid of death. Jin didn't want to face Levi before this. In the final analysis, he didn't have enough ships. And now he has a possible plan in front of him, and once this plan succeeds, the value behind it will be immeasurably high. I promise you, but if something goes wrong I will leave, and... Jin suddenly turned his head, the light in his eyes was like a sharp sword, breathtaking, joked, you want to plot against us, you should know the consequences of doing so. The warning is self-evident. The second in command of Beast's pirates, who is second only to Kaido of 4 emperors, released a powerful aura at this moment. Buzz. An invisible pressure suddenly acted on the room. Just a look made Pika and the others feel like they were being stared at by a ghost, and their clothes were instantly soaked in cold sweat. Don't worry, I will look for the right time and won't die recklessly. Doflamingo still had a smile on his face. He didn't feel any discomfort under Jin's gaze and was still talking and laughing calmly. Jin didn't say anything, turned around and left with Jack. As for their original deal, it's not too late to do it after Levi is eliminated. The most important thing now is to prepare planning means. Young master, are we really good at dealing with Levi? Isn't this a bit too dangerous? Pika said in a high-pitched voice, her face looking a little ugly under the helmet. It was because of his face-to-face contact with Levi that he realized how terrifying this man was, and his invisible oppression definitely exceeded Jin just now. Doflamingo didn't answer. His eyes flickered, and he leaned back against the sofa seat and sat down slowly. He wanted to get to the next level. 7 warlords of the sea is still not enough. Doflamingo wants to stand at the top of the pillars of this world. He wants to have the qualifications to compete with the 5 elders. And Levi is an opportunity. If Levi can be defeated, the entire Don Quixote family will become stronger, and Doflamingo will no longer have to fear anyone. Roar, this moment. Advertisement, a figure flashed uncontrollably in Doflamingo's mind. That is a divine dragon entrenched in the sky, 4 emperors, Kaido. There was a drop of cold sweat on Doflamingo's forehead. Even if he was 7 warlords of the sea, he would still feel palpitations when facing Kaido. This is the gap. Doflamingo wants to erase this gap. Also, Levi's blood can make human flesh and white bones alive. By then, no one among the cadres whom he regards as relatives will die or be injured. These reasons are enough for him to gamble. Dover. Torble looked at Doflamingo, who had been silent for a long time, but hesitated to speak. Doflamingo raised a hand, interrupting what he was going to say next. Send someone to contact Levi, monitor his whereabouts, and don't expose him. That person should be very suitable. The other side. Dressrosa Street Bar. Levi sat at the bar, drinking 1 glass after another of the strongest wine in the bar. The crystal wine slipped from the corner of his mouth, inevitably wetting the pink fur coat. It was this pink fur coat that startled everyone who entered the bar, thinking it was King Doflamingo coming. Although it was quickly discovered that Levi was not Doflamingo, no one dared to approach him. Apart from, the door was pushed open, revealing a dancer with long brown-black hair and beautiful light brown eyes. Her eyes were full of charm, and she walked towards Levi step by step. Chapter 48. Of course, I am a good person after all, please vote for flowers. The curvy dancer twisted her waist slightly and walked towards Levi. Those ruby-like eyes are charming and charming, as delicate as a pool of spring water. This gentleman is dressed very uniquely, just like the king here, Doflamingo. The dancer's delicate body is slightly slumped, her lips are close to Levi's ear, and the faint hot air blows on Levi's earlobe, with a charm that makes people feel soft in their bones. Is something wrong? Levi turned his head and looked into the dancer's ruby eyes. It's Violet. Levi recognized the other person's identity at a glance. Was it sent by Doflamingo? Levi doesn't believe that just finding a bar on the street to drink can attract Princess Dressrosa's favor. It's not like I have anything to do, I just want to have a few drinks with my husband. Violet raised her red lips, coexisting with charm and elegance. Finished. Levi drank the red wine in 1 gulp and put the empty glass down with a bang. Violet. What is this operation? Doesn't the 5th emperor have any sentimentality? Sir, you are indeed very interesting. Violet turned her head to cover up the corners of her mouth, and waved to the bartender. Give us 2 more glasses of the best red wine. Soon, the bartender brought the red wine. Violet pushed one of the glasses in front of Levi and picked up the other one. The clear wine reflected a faint red shimmer under the dim lights of the bar, which reflected on Violet's snow-white cheeks, making her look as if she was blushing with shame, adding a bit of softness. Sir, let me toast you. Violet raised her wine glass, smiling with her red lips and showing just the right amount of shyness in her eyes. Sorry, I'm allergic to red wine, Levi suddenly said. Violet, didn't you just finish drinking red wine? Are you allergic in the blink of an eye? For the first time, Violet can be said to be unsentimental to Levi. But this second time, Violet sensed something was wrong. Could it be that Levi discovered his intention? Her eyebrows furrowed slightly. Violet couldn't think of anything that went wrong. Isn't it normal for girls to strike up a conversation in the bar? Unless Levi already knew that he was Doflamingo's subordinate. This guess made Violet's heart sink. The flow of thoughts only lasts for a moment. A glimmer of light flashed deep in Violet's ruby eyes. Sorry, I'm a little dizzy. She stretched out her hands and put them against her temples in a dizzying motion. And in this quiet moment, advertisement Violet put her right hand in front of her eyes, making an OK gesture. Stare at the fruit and activate. Those with the ability to stare at the fruit can see through objects and even the thoughts in people's minds when activating the power of the fruit. In other words, it's mind reading. Buzz. A faint halo emerged between Violet's fingers. This moment, she saw through Levi's heart. My identity, Doflamingo, sugar, the true darkness beneath the beauty of Dressrosa. Violet saw it all. Her eyes suddenly widened, and she couldn't maintain the OK gesture in front of her eyes because her fingers were trembling. Is there anyone in this world who knows the truth? Violet couldn't even control her emotions at the moment she understood Levi's heart. Dressrosa, in the eyes of the world, is a happy land of love and toys. Who knew that the toys walking on the street were all humans controlled by the sugary childlike fruit? Under the influence of the childlike fruit, the existence of the person turned into a toy will be erased, everyone in the world's memory of him will disappear, and he will completely become a person forgotten by the world. Behind every toy is a tragic story of blood. Countless families are torn apart. This is the truth about Dressrosa, Doflamingo's true means of controlling this kingdom. But after so many years, no one except Doflamingo and the cadres of the Don Quixote family can discover the truth. As long as it is touched by sugar, its existence will be erased and its memory will be forgotten. How can there be a chance to discover the truth? Violet, bent on overthrowing the tyranny of Doflamingo. But how small is the power of one person? Looking around, there is no one in the world who knows the truth and has no like-minded people. Can he single-handedly overthrow Dressrosa? After all, not everyone is the fifth emperor, and it is enough for one person to achieve the position of Emperor of the Sea. Violet was depressed and in pain, but in the end she decided to pretend to surrender and lurk around the Don Quixote family, waiting for opportunities. And now, she has found the second person who knows the truth about Dressrosa. Why does Levi know this? It's not important. What's important is that he knows it all. And is it possible for Levi, who knows the truth, to help him? Doflamingo is already taking action against Levi. This shows that Levi and Doflamingo are originally on opposite sides, and he has the same enemy as himself. And there is a common enemy. In addition, if you plead and give benefits, maybe there will be a chance. Look at Levi. Violet's eyes were extremely complicated: fear, expectation, worry. Finally, after the two people maintained silence for several minutes, Violet made up her mind. Advertisement. She raised her glass and drank the liquor in one gulp. Let me introduce you again. My name is Violet, a member of the Don Quixote family. Levi didn't answer, just looked at her quietly. Violet bit her lip. If she hadn't seen through her heart at that moment, she knew that the man in front of her was not a vicious person. He would have escaped by now, and she wouldn't even have the courage to look at him. She took a deep breath and said again, I want to ask you to defeat Doflamingo. Levi was speechless. Doflamingo sent a 25-year-old? When you opened your mouth, you didn't mean to kill yourself, but you wanted to help kill Doflamingo. Complaints are complaints, and Levi thought of the reason. Violet used the power of the fruit to see into her own heart, and she saw that she also knew the truth about Dressrosa. Are you pinning your hopes on yourself? What's the reason? Levi was noncommittal. I am willing to pay any price, including becoming your woman. Violet bit her lip, not daring to look directly into Levi's eyes, and stammered again. But, this can only be done after the matter is completed. What's the reason? Levi asked again. Violet was startled, then she raised her head and suddenly understood something. Doflamingo wants to deal with you. He sent me here to monitor your movements and find an opportunity to give you a fatal blow. Violet has a determination to risk everything and tell everything. The key hand should be sugar. She has the childlike fruit. You also know her abilities. In addition, there may be other people taking action, but I haven't come into contact with it, so I can't be sure who it is. She knows that things are limited, and most of them can only be guessed. This is why Doflamingo felt comfortable letting her come. As for why, who in this world would believe that there is such a thing as a childlike fruit? If Levi hadn't known the truth in advance, he would have thought it was Doflamingo's plan and wouldn't have believed it at all. He's going to do something to me. Levi raised his eyebrows slightly, picked up the wineglass, and drank the red wine in one gulp. Next moment, he wiped the drink from his mouth and looked at Violet with a smile on his face. Of course I can help you, I'm a good person after all. Doflamingo wants to take action on himself, Levi cannot remain indifferent. Levi thought that he had the same thing, something that could beat up Doflamingo, and it could come in handy this time. Violet trembled when she heard this. A good person? She knew that the battle 10 days ago was brutal. Thousands of Marines died in that battle, and the blood dyed the entire sea red. Levi, is he considered a good person? However, Violet also knew from Levi's heart that he had his own bottom line and would not kill innocent people indiscriminately. This was the real reason why she dared to speak to Levi. Chapter 49 Mushroom Cloud Shinigami, asking for flower evaluation votes. On the afternoon when Levi met Violet, the hot sun hung high over the port, causing the temperature of the port to rise sharply. Call on the sea. The sound of sails flapping in the wind echoed in a line, and the sound was terrifying. This turned out to be dozens of pirate ships appearing at the same time in the port near Dressrosa. This is a frightening scene. Each pirate ship represents an underground gangster force. There are gangster forces in the 4 sea areas of East Blue, West Blue, South Blue, and North Blue. Even the Beelzebub underground gangster force that dominates the New World is among them. And all these underground gangster forces were invited by Doflamingo to gather in Dressrosa. Boom, dozens of pirate ships were galloping at the same time, the sea surface was stirred up, and the waves hit the shore with a fierce momentum. The bow of the New World's underground force, the Beelzebub family. 2 men wearing black suits and sunglasses, who looked very similar to the Italian mafia, stood. Doflamingo is really a generous person. If he invites so many forces at once, isn't he afraid that someone will turn against him and swallow him even to the point of losing his bones? The man on the left with his slender head, Nick, stared at Dressrosa in the distance, with a ferocious smile on his face and said half-jokingly. This is Dressrosa. These people want to pose a threat to Emperor Joker in the base camp of the underground world, but there is still a lot to be desired. Marvin on the right shook his head, not paying attention to his companion's teasing. He seemed to have thought of something, and the expression on his face was a little fanatical. This time, almost all the famous underground gangs from all over the world are here. Doflamingo should make big moves. I'm afraid it wants to further expand its underground rule. It would be best if we can take this opportunity to get a share of the pie. Nick was also thoughtful. The Beelzebub family dominated the New World and had a certain status, but now it has reached a bottleneck in development and has not expanded much in the past few years. But this time is an opportunity. As long as we can cooperate with Doflamingo, the family will have further opportunities. I heard that Doflamingo and Kaido have some kind of deal. Let's see if there is a chance to get involved this time, Marvin suddenly said. Nick nodded and said no more. The port is almost there. At the same time, the port coast, it's them? Levi appears at the port holding Taiyaki. Knowing from Violet that Doflamingo might have reinforcements, he came to the port specifically to take a look. This look. Advertisement. The most conspicuous thing in the port is a familiar pirate ship. It is huge in size and looks similar to a mammoth, with the beast's pirate flag flying on the mast. This is Mammoth 2? Levi blinked. Could the reinforcements Violet mentioned be Jack? Rumble. There was a rumble of the sea surface being stirred. Levi raised his eyes and looked on the distant sea level. There are dozens of pirate ships heading towards the port. All foreign aid? Levi raised his eyebrows. This battle was really quite big. It looked like there were at least tens of thousands of people. This will take a long time, right? Etc. I seem to have something that is very suitable for dealing with group battles. Levi turned his palms. A very simple remote control appeared in the palm of the hand, which could even be called a crude remote control. There was only one red button protruding from the entire panel. Small nuclear bomb launcher. The rewards Levi got from collecting achievements for the first time are now just in time to come in handy. The dozens of pirate ships on the sea were still quite far away from him, just enough to be sure that the aftermath of the explosion would not radiate to him. Levi narrowed his eyes, positioned himself, and put his finger on the button. Bye-bye. The next second, thumb down, at the same time. We are almost arriving at the port. Why hasn't Joker sent someone out to greet us? Marvin frowned slightly as he looked at the situation at the port. There was no trace of the cadres of the Don Quixote family. Advertisement, don't you care about us? Nick also felt a little unhappy. Although the Beelzebub family wanted to get in touch with Doflamingo, after all, Doflamingo took the initiative to invite them this time, and it was a bit disrespectful not to come to greet them. However, just the next second, the 2 frowning people raised their heads in unison. Boom, the clouds were torn apart, and a big hole suddenly opened, followed by violent roars and dazzling fire. As if a second sun appears in the sky, the small nuclear bomb broke through the clouds and was falling towards the sea. In this direction, there happens to be a mafia family that is about to arrive at the port. What is that thing in the sky? Weapons, artillery fire. Marvin suddenly raised his head, his heart was beating wildly, and his instinct was telling him that a disaster was coming. The scorching wave of air came down from the sky. Even before it came, the temperature was already making his skin burn, and there was a stench. This is the smell of death. Doflamingo, how dare you plan to harm us? Nick's eyes widened, and this idea suddenly appeared in his mind at this last moment. Doflamingo, it must be him. Everyone was summoned, but no one greeted them at the port. What awaits them is a destructive weapon falling from the sky. This is AF********* G-trap. Doflamingo, IFK your mother. Joker, you have to die well. At this moment, countless mafia gangsters yelled and cursed Doflamingo in the most vicious language. Nuclear bomb, already, it has fallen. The blazing fire compressed into a small point and exploded with a power that destroyed the world. The mushroom cloud rises slowly. Chapter 50 Dressrosa is shocked. Mahawk's gaze. Asking for flower evaluation votes. Boom, fires as bright as daylight exploded in the harbor. Dozens of pirate ships were submerged on the spot, and the scorching heat and explosion dismembered all the hulls in just 0.01 seconds. The screams and curses of tens of thousands of mafiosi stopped abruptly and turned into ashes and were swallowed up. Next, a powerful storm swept across the sky and the earth, ruthlessly tearing the sea apart, causing silver waves hundreds of meters high to explode on the sea surface. And the waves were instantly engulfed in fire, and a terrifying explosion rushed towards Dressrosa. Dong! The port was broken, trees were burned, rocks were annihilated into powder, and terrifying airwaves crashed into the mountains. Rumble, the mountains shook violently, a large number of rocks collapsed, hundreds of dense cracks spread across the mountains, and the majestic mountains were blown to pieces on the spot. The seastone factory standing next to the mountain has become an isolated island in the storm. It is falling apart at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into pieces of debris one after another. And what's even more terrifying is, the sea was agitated by the explosion of this small nuclear bomb, setting off an overwhelming tsunami. Boom, water and the aftermath of the explosion hit the foundations of Dressrosa Island. This moment, Dressrosa trembles. A huge mushroom cloud rises from the sea. Oh my god, there's an earthquake, run quickly. This is not an earthquake at all, it is being bombed. There was chaos in the streets of Dressrosa, with people and toys running away in fear, and a big storm blew in, blowing everyone around. Inside the Colosseum. Rebecca let out a squeal and slashed the gladiator in front of her to the ground. The winner of this game is. The referee raised Rebecca's right hand and was about to announce the result. The ground beneath my feet suddenly trembled, then there was a blast sound like thunder falling to the ground. Boom, instantly suppressed, covering all the sounds in the Colosseum. Rebecca's beautiful eyes widened, and her body trembled slightly uncontrollably. Just hearing the sound of explosion, it actually made her feel a little scared. Cyrus, who was hiding on the edge of the Colosseum and observing Rebecca, was also stunned. He is a legendary hero in the battle arena of Dressrosa, with an incredible undefeated record of 3,000 games. I vaguely felt that the sound just now was definitely not as simple as artillery bombardment. Advertisement. Cyrus instinctively thought of someone. Levi. I saw him in the kingdom this morning, but there were changes in the afternoon. Is there any connection between the two? Cyrus looked at Rebecca with worries in his eyes. No matter what, he did not want his daughter Rebecca to be hurt. The other side, on the streets where people come and go. Violet was waiting in a long line in front of the taiyaki shop. She never expected that Levi's first request was for her to buy taiyaki for her. Obviously Levi eats taiyaki for lunch, don't you feel tired of it? I complained in my heart. The ground beneath my feet shook suddenly and violently. Violet couldn't hold the taiyaki she had just bought in her hand, and it fell to the ground with a clack. She raised her head in confusion. The sky in the distance is so dark that it makes people feel uneasy. Did you do it? Violet's eyes were in trance. She thought of Levi, who had said he was going for a walk and left half an hour ago. Not long after leaving, there was a big explosion? No matter how you think about it, it seems very relevant. Violet took a deep look at the dark sky, at the same time. King's Heights, inside the Kadri Tower. It's also a good idea to create a chance encounter. Levi shouldn't be wary of sugar. Just walking by and touching Levi on the street might be successful? However, this plan involves a gamble. If it fails and something happens to sugar, it may threaten the entire Dressrosa. But if it succeeds, it won't cost much. It's high risk and high reward. Torpal held a pen in his hand and was planning a strategy against Levi in front of a large round table. On the other side of the round table are Pika, Sugar and other senior cadres. Sugar pursed her lips and ate grapes one after another. She didn't know how relaxed her face was, and she didn't know if she listened. Torpal, have you forgotten something? Sugar suddenly spoke after eating a grape. Huh? Torpal tilted his head, his nose dripping. Didn't you say that mafia families from all over the world are coming to a party this afternoon? Did you call someone to greet them? Sugar looked at Torpal with a look of disgust. Torpal. In order to deal with Levi, he was so focused on his plan that he really forgot about it. Is it time for the mafia to arrive at the port now? Oops, now we're going to dishonor the family's honor. Torpal quickly stood up from his seat. He wanted to rush to the port to entertain the mafia family. But the moment he just stood up, the entire King's Heights trembled violently. Advertisement, plop. Torpal swayed and fell to the ground unexpectedly. Everyone stood up at this moment and looked out the window in unison. I saw a huge mushroom cloud exploding in the direction of the port. The smoke rose, making the entire sky darken, which was extremely depressing. Damn it, couldn't it be those mafia lunatics who felt they were being neglected and fired at the port? Pika screamed in a high-pitched voice. Hurry over, Torpal made a quick decision and got up from the ground. Pika, go and report the news to Dove. Forget it, there is such a big movement, Dove must know about it, come with me to explore the damage at the port. Torpal shouted. At this moment, he had many questions in his mind. In the end, what happened? Enemy attack. At the same time. The waters near Dressrosa. A small boat is slowly floating on the sea. This is just an ordinary boat, and there is only one person on board. But that's what makes people shocked. The new world is full of dangers, and just relying on a small boat and traveling alone shows how powerful it is. On the bow of the ship, a tall figure stood. He was not very strong, but he had an unstoppable determination, like an unsheathed sword. Behind him, a long black knife swallowed up the sunlight, revealing an unsettling murderous intent. And the most eye-catching thing is, the man's eyes were amber, as sharp as an eagle. 7 warlords of the sea, the world's greatest swordsman, Mihawk. Mihawk suddenly looked up and saw the mushroom cloud exploding on the sea in the distance. A wave of energy as strong as a knife rushed towards you. Chang. The black sword came out of its sheath and cut the airwave into 2 pieces with thunderous force. Boom. The airwaves diverted, and the dark cloak flew behind Mihawk. Draw out and put away the knife in one go. He stared in the direction of Dressrosa, his hawk-like eyes shining with sharp light. Next moment, the boat's sailing direction changes. Mihawk heads towards Dressrosa. Chapter 51. So disgusting Dover, please vote for flowers. King's Highland, the highest point. Doflamingo, Jin, and Jack are gathered here at the moment. In the distance, mushroom clouds soared into the sky, the intense heat was melting everything, and nuclear radiation was like Shinigami's sickle, silently placed over everyone's heads. Pika lowered his head and reported all the losses at the port. He didn't dare to approach the port at all. There was something uneasy about him, which was nuclear radiation. Just by observing with a telescope from a distance, you can see everything in the port. All annihilated. If it weren't for Dressrosa's majestic terrain and the seastone factory that blocked part of the aftermath and separated the airwaves, it would not have affected the rear. Joker, what is going on? This happened in your territory. Brother Kaido knows that he must be angry. You must give an explanation to the beast's pirates, otherwise be prepared to bear the wrath of the 4 emperors. Jin's voice was low, with a kind of solemnity that was depressing. He saw the explosion at the port. The beast's pirates' ship is still docked in the port. If this trend is going on, it is absolutely impossible for them to survive. All the givers on the ship may have lost their lives. This is definitely a huge loss. My boat is gone too. Joker, how are you going to compensate me? Jack was furious and had a tendency to take action if he disagreed. He was really on the verge of anger. The mammoth was snatched away by Levi, and now the mammoth too was also destroyed in an inexplicable explosion. Over and over again, Jack was so frustrated that he exploded. Doflamingo's eyelids twitched wildly, and the veins on his forehead were exposed. The smile on his face was no longer replaced by a ferocious killing intent. Who is it? How dare you tamper with the kingdom he rules? More importantly, Doflamingo thought of the mafia families from all over the world who were invited by him. Now they all died in the explosion, not to mention that his purpose of expanding the underground arms network was ruined. These mafia families are definitely going to cause trouble for him. The person sent to attend the party died inexplicably at the port of Dressrosa. Anyone would suspect Doflamingo did it. Even Jin was wondering if this was a trap set by Doflamingo. They pretended to take action against Levi and left them in Dressrosa, but in reality they wanted to take action against the beast's pirates. Although this possibility is slim, it is still possible after all. Beast's pirates' losses. I will pay compensation as usual. Doflamingo's veins were twitching wildly, and he was now like mud falling into his crotch, which was either shit or shit. Advertisement. Even if he didn't do it, he can only pay compensation. After all, this is within his territory. Otherwise, just like Jin said, he will bear the wrath of beast's pirates. And at this time, Torble walked up quickly and said with a fearful expression, Dover, the seastone factory along the coast was also affected by the explosion and has been destroyed. The seastone factory will also be destroyed. Doflamingo frowned. This is simply unbelievable. In the world's perception, there is no need to say how strong seastone is. At least it is impossible for ordinary artillery fire to destroy seastone. And the thermal weapon that exploded at the port could only cover the seastone factory with its aftermath? Joker, who did you provoke? Jin's eyes flickered at this moment, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes as he looked at Doflamingo. Even the seastone factory was destroyed. Jin has completely believed that this cannot be Doflamingo's trap. No one can injure the enemy by 800 and injure himself by 2000. Who are you provoking? If you think about it carefully, there might only be that one person. Doflamingo's eyes flickered. He thought about Levi. Only the 5th Emperor has this weird ability, not to mention Levi is now in Dressrosa. Doflamingo had to think of him. However, this is just speculation and cannot be confirmed. If there is another force in Dressrosa at this moment, taking action against Levi rashly will make others reap the benefits. Go find out who did all this. Doflamingo looked at Torble with a gloomy expression. By the way, call Violet. Yes. Torble nodded and withdrew with a cold face. He was also suffocating in his heart and wanted to find out who was responsible for the good deeds. On the other side, the port. Levi stood on the top of a distant mountain, looking at the mushroom cloud rising in the distance. It's really spectacular. Levi looked at the mushrooms he had planted and nodded with satisfaction. This firecracker, it's put hard enough. Advertisement. Go find Doflamingo. Levi turned around, and it was time to deal with the real owner. After taking just 2 steps, Levi stopped. He suppressed this thought for the time being. Doflamingo should still be frantically looking for the real culprit. If he showed up immediately, wouldn't it mean that he was the one who did it? It's better to let Doflamingo guess a little longer, it's so disgusting to him. Think of this. Levi's feet moved, a breeze blows. The figure slowly dissipated. King's Heights. Violet came to Doflamingo, she bent her body slightly and nodded to Doflamingo, neither humble nor arrogant. Where is Levi this afternoon? Doflamingo got right to the point. Buying taiyaki on the street. Violet said softly, without any fluctuation in her expression. Always within your sight? Doflamingo frowned. Yes, Violet nodded, still respectful. Doflamingo fell silent. Really not Levi? Is there a second force in the kingdom? And with such a powerful weapon, who could it be? You go down first and continue to monitor Levi. Doflamingo waved his hand and said no more. Violet nodded. Quietly retreat, until we get out of King's Heights. Only then did Violet's complexion change, she turned extremely pale, and cold sweat fell drop by drop. She lied to Doflamingo, chapter 52. Man, please vote for flowers. Doflamingo is Violet's nightmare that she fears from the bottom of her heart. He destroyed Dressrosa with his own hands, controlled the citizens of the entire country, and had the world at his fingertips. And now, Violet deceived Doflamingo and put all her hopes on Levi. This arrogant 5th Emperor must take action after knowing that Doflamingo is going to deal with him. Dragging her tired body, Violet returned home. The sky fell, darkness embraced the earth, and night fell. Click, she opened the door and was about to slip on her slippers when she suddenly froze. Inside the house, there is another person, it's Levi. Yo. Levi turned around and waved to her, his behavior was very natural and not at all formal. It doesn't matter if I stay for one night, right? Levi said vaguely, still eating hot taiyaki in his mouth. With his current status, staying in a hotel might cause another commotion. Rather than being in peace, it would be better to stay at Violet's house for one night. No, it doesn't matter. Violet smiled reluctantly, a look of panic flashed in her beautiful eyes. Even though he and Levi had reached an agreement, he was still a little scared when he saw Levi suddenly appear at home. After all, this is the 5th Emperor, no one can remain calm in front of him. Seeing Violet nodding, Levi also nodded, and then he walked towards the closet, and suddenly opened the closet. Inside are all kinds of gorgeous clothes. It's all women's clothing, no way. Levi blinked. What are you doing? Violet was startled by Levi's action, and her back pressed against the door. It's okay, I'll just take a look. Levi coughed twice and closed the closet again. When did you have the habit of opening the closet? As soon as I ran into someone's house, I subconsciously wanted to open the cupboard. It's all Doflamingo's fault. Violet watched Levi close the closet smoothly and naturally. This is my home, right? Why do you look more skilled than me? Violet took a deep breath and her eyelids couldn't help but twitch. I'll take a shower. After Levi finished the taiyaki, he wiped his mouth and turned around and walked into the bathroom regardless of whether Violet agreed or not. Violet. Did you go to the wrong door? In fact, this is Levi's house, and you are here as a guest, right? Wow. In the bathroom, the sound of water flowed, and Levi's back with perfect muscle lines could be vaguely seen through the glass door. Nice body. No, what am I thinking? Violet's face turned red. She quickly lowered her head, suppressed the strange emotions in her heart, and walked to the kitchen to prepare dinner. P******K. 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 The hot oil splashes and the fried eggs turn golden on the bottom of the pan. Are you frying eggs? Advertisement suddenly, a voice rang in her ears. It's very close. Right within your ears. Violet's fingers froze, and the freshly cut poached eggs were almost thrown to the ground by her. Yes. Violet forced out a smile and turned back to look into Levi's dark eyes. Levi had already finished washing at some point, and walked behind her wrapped in a bath towel. The hot air hit Violet's face, and she lowered her head, her eyes evasive. Aren't you going to take a shower? Levi pointed to the bathroom, which was still steaming out. Violet was stunned for a moment, then her face changed, and her ears turned red. A man and a woman were alone in the same room. After the man took a shower, he asked himself to take a shower too. This is. What? Although Violet has never experienced this kind of thing, she has heard of it more or less. Levi's words, is it hinting at something? It's not that we have to wait until later. Violet bit her lip, her ruby eyes trembling slightly. Go wash it quickly, Levi urged. Violet bit her lip tightly, and the expression on her face changed many times. I was still speculating before, but now that I see Levi urging me so decisively, I am really thinking about that. Okay, I'll go. She finally nodded and risked her life for the country. Anyway, Levi had promised this kind of thing a long time ago, but he just paid him in advance. As the 5th Sea Emperor, Levi shouldn't break his promise, right? Violet patted her cheeks, convincing herself in her mind, and walked into the bathroom with stiff steps. 20 minutes later, Violet was wrapped in a bath towel and poked her head out of the bathroom with a blushing face. She walked carefully, holding the edge of the bath towel, and walked quietly to the bedroom. Huh, huh. As soon as Violet walked to the door, her steps froze. She vaguely heard steady breathing from the bedroom. This look. Levi was already lying on the bed, wrapped in quilt and fast asleep. Violet was stunned. Is this playing hard to get? Or is it a hint to be more proactive? What are you doing standing here? Levi suddenly opened his eyes and looked straight at Violet standing at the door. I got to this bed first, you go and sleep on the sofa. Violet. Wait, it turns out that you are not playing hard to get, nor are you letting yourself take the initiative? But, Levi wants to sleep on the bed. Violet froze, she didn't even know what to say. Emotions. Levi kept urging her to take a shower, not to do that kind of thing quickly, but to grab the bed first. If you want to sleep on the bed, just say so. You are the 5th emperor, even if I am unwilling, I can only give it to you. Violet was extremely embarrassed, and her already blushing face became even redder. Advertisement. After working on it for a long time, I will get the wrong meaning. Violet was embarrassed and wanted to find a hole in the ground to crawl into. Don't fight with me. Levi looked at Violet again, wrapped himself in a quilt, and fell asleep. After a while, the steady breathing sounded again. Violet was embarrassed just now, but now she is shy and angry. Isn't it too fast to fall asleep? Just touched the pillow and fell asleep? You are the 5th emperor, do you really have the nerve to compete for a bed with a girl? Violet patted her red and hot cheek. Unfortunately, I also did a lot of mental construction. Hey, man. Violet pursed her lips and walked to the sofa in the living room in a grieved manner. She picked up the omelet she had made before and bit it hard one by one, as if she was venting. A night of silence. The morning sun shines through the window. There seemed to be a movement in the house. Violet wakes up. She looked haggard and had 2 big dark circles under her eyes. I didn't sleep for almost the whole night last night. I really couldn't fall asleep. No one could sleep peacefully in the same room as the 5th emperor. And most importantly, Violet loves bed. In a daze, Violet saw that the bedroom was empty. Levi is gone. Just as he was thinking about it, Levi walked out of the kitchen with a sandwich and milk in his hand. You are so young, you sleep until noon, you can really sleep. Levi ate the sandwich leisurely and watched Violet complain without hesitation. It's not you yet. Violet pursed her lips and felt aggrieved. It's simply too much, but, to Violet's surprise, Levi made 2 breakfasts. It's not too much, eat quickly. Levi pointed to the sandwich on the table. Violet was about to get up. Someone's knocking on the door. Bang, bang, bang. The sound is short. Violet, is there any news about Levi last night? Outside the door, a woman's voice sounded. It's Doflamingo's subordinate, one of the top cadres of the Don Quixote family, Jorah. Violet's body suddenly stiffened. She looked at Levi, who was eating a sandwich in the living room. A drop of cold sweat ran down my forehead. Chapter 53. Good sword, good understanding of cheap arts, please vote for flowers. Violet, is there any news about Levi last night? Jorah's knocking on the door again and again was dull and short, like a direct knock on Violet's heart, making her whole body tense. The people from Doflamingo were here. If Jorah knew Levi was in his room. Violet took a deep breath. The consequences of this were unimaginable. There is a screen between the door and the living room, which isolates the two. You can't see what's inside the living room if you stand outside the door. Jorah probably wouldn't break into his room without any trouble. And Levi should pay attention to it himself, right? Violet's mind changed rapidly at this moment. She suppressed the nervousness in her heart and tried to look natural. Get up and open the door. Jorah, I only followed Levi to the hotel from a distance last night and did not follow up further. You know, Levi is very intuitive. Watching too closely will make him suspicious. Violet had put on a smiling face. Well, you were right not to follow rashly. Jorah nodded, without thinking much, and asked, which tavern is it? Violet named a location. It's time for you to start taking action today. Don't hesitate. If you can win Levi, the Don Quixote family will be at the top of the world. Jorah smiled and wrote down the address Violet said. The next second, her inverted triangular eyes became sharp. Of course. Don't have any other ideas. You should be very aware of the young master's methods. Yes. Violet lowered her head, perfectly showing her fear of Doflamingo. Jorah looked at her deeply before leaving with satisfaction. Call. After closing the door and making sure Jorah was gone, Violet let out a long breath. Fortunately, it was not discovered. Violet was still frightened. Jorah's arrival was so unexpected that she was even mentally prepared to open the door and see the Don Quixote family members standing outside to surround her. Fine. Violet walked into the living room and was about to reassure Levi, but she was stunned. Levi didn't even raise his head, still eating breakfast calmly, showing no sign of Jorah's arrival. Not even a little bit of any other emotion. Advertisement. Violet was speechless. Levi's calmness gave her the feeling that he was making a fuss. She was extremely nervous, afraid that someone would discover Levi in her room. As a result, Levi is eating well. Levi really didn't care. He drank the milk in 2 gulps and wiped his mouth. I've made breakfast for you as compensation for staying here yesterday. Eat it while it's hot. Levi pointed to another sandwich on the table, finished. He opened the door generously and took 1 foot out. Before leaving, Levi suddenly thought of something again. turned his head and said to Violet in the living room. I'm going out first and will come back later. Are you coming back tonight? Upon hearing this, Violet was immediately shocked. One day is not enough, you want to stay for 2 more days? Not that she hated Levi. The key is, she couldn't sleep well with Levi at home. Like a gleam on the back, like a fishnet on the throat. No one can sleep peacefully in the same room with the notorious 5th Emperor, right? Violet grabbed a handful of messy hair and stared at Levi rather resentfully. Of course, I don't have a place to stay, so I will definitely come to your house. Levi blinked his eyes as he was being watched, as if it was a matter of course. Violet. Something's wrong with you. What does it mean if you have no place to live, you must come to your own home? Is your home a free hotel where you can stay at any time? Levi's words were so arrogant that it was as if he was the one who was in the wrong. Violet held her forehead, she didn't know what to say. He robbed his bed last night, shouldn't he kick him out tonight and say this is his home? Violet felt dizzy. There's something wrong with this 5th Emperor. Aren't the rumors about him in the world all extremely cruel and mysterious? Advertisement. Levi left Violet's house. Not far away, he saw 2 familiar figures practicing with their swords in the empty kendo field. It's Rebecca and Cyrus. Drink. Rebecca drew her sword and struck vertically in a meticulous manner. Beside her, Cyrus, a toy soldier, holds a small sword and demonstrates swordsmanship to Rebecca by example. Chang. As the legendary warrior Cyrus, who once maintained an undefeated record of 3,000 duels in the Colosseum, even though he was turned into a toy soldier by sugar, he still wielded his sword with impressive momentum. Every slash was just right, splitting the air and releasing a vast sword light. Good swordsmanship. Suddenly, from a corner where no one was paying attention, a heroic figure walked out. His appearance blocked the sunlight, and standing here gave off the aura of a great swordsman, making people afraid to look directly at him. Eagle. Mahawk? Rebecca's eyes shrank and she called out the person's name in surprise. Eagle-like eyes and signature black knife. The name of the world's greatest swordsman is so resounding that even Rebecca, who has been living in Dressrosa, has heard of it. Your swordsmanship is good, but there is room for improvement. Mahawk didn't have much expression on his face and just took the small sword from Cyrus. He flipped his wrist and slashed out a piercing sword flower in the air. It wasn't very fancy, just this one slash made Cyrus' eyes widen. He suddenly discovered that it was the same sword technique, but when used in Mahawk's hands, it was 30% more powerful than him. 30% doesn't sound like much, but it's enough to show that Mahawk's attainments in the sword are far beyond Cyrus's. After all, Mahawk is a slightly improved version of Cyrus's sword move, which has already increased its power by 30%. And right now, good sword, good understanding of cheap skills. A figure wearing a white suit and a pink fur coat appeared. With a self-amused smile on his lips, he applauded Mahawk's swordsmanship without hesitation. It's you. Mahawk's sharp eyes suddenly shrank. Far away. This person walking slowly, it is none other than the 5th Emperor, Levi. Chapter 54. Today's template, myself 10 years from now, asking for flower evaluation votes. Sand, a white cloud flew in, blocking the sun and casting a lot of shadows on the ground. In the sword dojo, 2 figures stand opposite each other. One person, with a flying black robe and cold, sharp eyes. One person, a pink fur vest fluttering in the wind, showing his arrogance and strength. But his dark eyes were the complete opposite, giving people a sense of depth and calm, like a bottomless abyss. The more he stared at it, the more attracted he became, and the more attracted he became, the more frightened he became. Are you Levi? Mahawk's eyes fell on Levi. He was attracted by the nuclear bomb explosion, but he never expected to meet the newly promoted 5th Emperor here. Levi didn't say anything, just looked at Mahawk with a smile. This moment, there was obviously no conflict, but cold sweat broke out on the faces of Cyrus and Rebecca. The 5th Emperor and the world's greatest swordsman, these 2 people appeared one after another under their noses, and they were confronting each other, and they were about to collide. I heard that Levi, the 5th Emperor, is famous for his swordsmanship, and his sword skills are ever-changing. To this day, no one can figure out what style he belongs to. Mahawk's eyes fell on Levi, his lips were slightly opened, and his low and magnetic hoarse voice echoed faintly. So how does it compare to the world's greatest swordsman? Levi put his hands in his pockets, he had a kind of leisure in his bones, and no one standing in front of him could change this leisure. You'll know if you've had a fight. Mahawk raised his right hand slightly, and the black knife behind him trembled slightly as if he felt his master's thoughts. It's a pity, let's wait another day. Levi shook his head, showing no intention of taking action. Oh, is something wrong? Mahawk's eyes flickered and he paused with his raised right hand. Well, something happened. I can wait until you're done. Okay. Let's go. Advertisement. Levi turned around and started to leave. What are you doing? Mahawk asked. Beat Doflamingo until his mother doesn't even know he's dead. Levi turned his back to Mahawk, chuckled and said these words that were enough to make the entire Dressrosa tremble. The 5th Emperor, who never showed arrogance on the outside, showed at this moment the strength and dominance of the Emperor of the Sea. He wanted to beat the king of Dressrosa to death as soon as he opened his mouth. From behind, Cyrus stared. Levi is going to take action against Doflamingo? Huh? Mahawk's eyes moved slightly, but the expression on his face didn't change much, and his expression remained cold. He thought of the horrific explosions he had seen on the sea. Sure enough, Dressrosa is not as calm as she appears. Undercurrents are surging, and a big change is about to happen in Dressrosa. Levi's going to fight Doflamingo is an omen. The 5th Emperor will definitely stir up bloodshed in Dressrosa. Open black lens bracket ding. Host checks in successfully, and each physical quality plus 0.5. Today's template. Levi, 10 years later. Levi's pupils narrowed slightly. Even he was moved at this moment. Today's template is not a certain swordsman in the world, but Levi himself. Myself 10 years from now. Have you traveled all over the world, understood all the ways, and found an invincible path? The corners of Levi's lips quirked up. It really makes people eager to know the future. King's Heights. Several figures were walking towards the kingdom. Doflamingo, Jin, and Jack, 3 people walking side by side. The investigation has preliminary results. Someone witnessed the scene at the port on the eve of the explosion. Doflamingo spoke in a low voice, revealing his tiredness. It was obvious that the explosion of the nuclear bomb at the port had caused him a lot of trouble. Advertisement. It was a thermal weapon that fell from the sky and destroyed the port. The explosion covered a range of 4 kilometers. The scientific team found that there seemed to be some residual pollutants in the port after the explosion. A product of science? Jin asked. Doflamingo nodded. Hearing this, Jack was stunned. So, it wasn't Levi who did it. In Jack's knowledge, he didn't know that Levi had such a destructive weapon. Levi has always walked alone. We at Beast's Pirates have conducted some investigations on him and found no trace of any force behind him. The possibility of him being the murderer is indeed very small. There is no way to research such a terrifying scientific product alone, Jin said. Having said that, Levi cannot be completely ruled out. Don't forget that Levi holds an uncertain power in his hands. Maybe it is Uranus. Uranus. Jin frowned slightly, thoughtfully. Uranus, very few people in the world really know what it is. Maybe there are no people who fully know it. What if this explosion was caused by Uranus? Just as this idea appeared in Jin's mind, he heard a loud shout coming from the distance. Master, Levi and Mahawk are coming towards us. Diamante came from a distance, her face full of horror. Doflamingo's face changed suddenly. He suddenly turned around. Jin and Jack also turned around at the same time. See. There are 2 figures below, rushing towards the King's Heights. One of them is wearing the same coat as Doflamingo. He doesn't walk very fast, but he has a power that cannot be ignored. The other person, with a tall and straight figure, was wearing a black robe that made a sharp sound, as sharp as an unsheathed divine sword. These 2 people are none other than Levi and Mahawk. Why did the 2 of them get together? Doflamingo's expression changed. Levi and Mahawk walked side by side, but there was no conflict. 2 lone rangers, either one of them could disrupt the world, and now they have gathered together. And it's heading towards the King's Heights. Ba, 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 ba. Open the door and welcome the guests. Doflamingo waved his hand and issued this order. Chapter 55. Borrow a sword from the stars in the sky. Asking for flower evaluation votes. In the King's Heights, the gate of the palace is open at this moment. Levi and Mahawk stride forward. A great honor to me, but the 5th Emperor Levi is here. I wonder what the reason for coming here is. Doflamingo looked calm when facing Levi, with a signature smile on his face, and there was no sign of him secretly planning to deal with him. Doflamingo didn't even mention the last time Levi broke into the bedroom uninvited. As he spoke, Doflamingo looked at Mahawk from the corner of his eyes. Why is this difficult guy here too? Doflamingo thought about many possibilities, but he didn't expect Levi to appear with Mahawk because the 2 had no intersection at all. The 5th Emperor and the world's greatest swordsman are both extremely difficult opponents to deal with, so it's not easy for the 2 of them to come together now. What is the purpose? The eyes under Doflamingo's sunglasses changed slightly. Behind him, Jack's face was cold, staring at Levi as if there were red bloodshot eyes. The enemy is right in front of him, and Jack can't wait to go up and tear Levi into pieces immediately. Me? I came here specifically to see you. Levi had a faint smile on his face, and his dark eyes swept over Doflamingo, Jin, and Jack one by one. Jin's eyes flickered, the flames behind his head swayed slightly, and a sinister meaning quietly emerged. What do you mean by this? Jack took a step forward, eyes wide with anger, and a wild beast-like aura bloomed from his body. He is ready to fight if he disagrees with you. Anyone could tell there was something wrong in Levi's words. He obviously knew that Jack and Jin were here in Doflamingo, but he still took the initiative to come. This is a signal, a precursor to breaking up. Aren't you looking for the murderer? Now I'm here to find you. Levi chuckled. His expression was still so indifferent, but the words he spoke made people feel chilled. Murderer? The pupils of Doflamingo, Jin, and Jack all suddenly shrank, almost becoming needle-like. Levi is the murderer who caused the explosion. He appeared in front of everyone without any scruples and admitted the matter frankly. Why did Levi attack them? Did Levi know the plan? It is also said that there is another purpose, so what is this purpose? Many other thoughts flashed through Doflamingo's mind. He opened his mouth and let the thousands of thoughts in his heart go without panicking. Why? Suddenly, Advertisement: Doflamingo's hair stands on end. Joker, be careful. At this moment, Jin shouted quickly. Doflamingo's sunglasses reflect a cold light. At this moment, he stood upside down with all the hair on his body. It was just Levi making an action. He reached forward and grasped the void. Today's template. Levi, 10 years later, activated, close black lens bracket. Boom, the majestic and boundless bronze wall rose from the ground, filling the air with a vast and primitive atmosphere, and the 764th small grid on it exploded. However, there is nothing inside. Levi, 10 years later, without a sword? No, nothing appears, but it gives people a sense of recognition out of thin air. Within the bronze grid, a sword has already appeared. It is invisible and has no limitations, but it makes people know that there is a sword lying here. Chang. There was a bright light flowing in Levi's eyes, like a bright shooting star cutting through the dark night sky. At this moment, he understood where he would stand 10 years later. That is the pinnacle of the long road of swordsmanship, the end of the unity of 10,000 ways. He is the emperor who stands alone at the top of the sword. Although there is no sword in his hand, there is a sword in my heart. Everything is a sword. Levi, reach out and ask for a sword from the sky. Boom, the sky cracked at this moment, the clouds fell apart, and inexplicable and huge power spread. The light points connected in a line, hanging high in the sky, shining brightly, extremely bright. These are stars shining with dazzling light. During the day, the light of the stars will be obscured by the sun, making it difficult to see. However, in this present moment, thousands of stars hang in the sky, dazzling even more than the sun. Advertisement: Levi, asking the sky for a sword is also borrowing a sword from the stars in the sky. Rumble. The dazzling stars trembled slightly, and the boundless starlight poured down wisps, converging towards Levi's palm, condensing into a galactic sword. The sword body seems to contain countless stars, endless and countless. Faintly, you can actually see the vast and bright stars inside, and even the powerful and huge planet is rotating. Doflamingo moved without hesitation, string fruit erupted, and white lines connected to the white clouds in the sky. As 7 warlords of the sea, Doflamingo chose to escape at this moment. At the same time, Doflamingo shouted towards the Kadri Tower, "Get back." All this happened too fast, completed in just an instant. There was an extra sword in Levi's hand, making him feel great murderous intent. This kind of murderous intention gave him a foreboding of a world-ending disaster that was about to come. Nothing could happen to Sugar in the Kadri Tower, otherwise everything would be overturned. However, at the same time Doflamingo spoke, "Galaxy Great Sword. It has fallen." Boom, Levi is bathed in the gorgeous starlight, like the supreme king who rules this world. Just a slight stroke, but it seems to be cutting open the world. Thousands of strings of string fruit burst at the same time. Not good. Doflamingo's heart seemed to have stopped, and the bright sword light was reflected in his eyes. It didn't look like a sword strike at all, it was more like the vast galaxy broke through the curtain of the universe and crashed down on him. No way to react. The sword light shines through the sky, like a surging sea sweeping across the front, and like a rainbow penetrating the heaven and earth, moving forward indomitably. This moment, rumble, the king's highlands trembled, and thousands of cracks spread. This indestructible natural barrier was shattered by the collision of sword energy and was exploding. "No, protect Sugar!" Torbol's shouting came from the Kadri Tower. His eyes widened and his liver and gallbladder burst. He had no idea what was happening. He only heard Dover roaring, and then the ground was shaking. This shaking affected the Kadri Tower. "Sugar, dangerous. Once something happens to her, the whole Dressrosa will be shaken." Levi's sword, picking up Dressrosa.